Mic check. Okay, great.
Quit.
Mic check.
What I'm saying here in the same category of nonsense as what I say about January 6th, as what I say about Woo, as what I say about Gamergate and Pizzagate and Cicada and QAnon. And we're literally talking to the sources. And they don't know any of this. So literally anything I say that requires more than a surface level understanding of like the content. So they're not forcing you to do it. They're able to like avoid TOS by selling you a drink ticket for your alcohol because we can't sell the alcohol.
Where's my guardian name? Why is it every
Oops. Israel Palestine, the role of religion in modern society and modern conflict. Short fat attack.
There's no such thing as absolute free speech that exists in this earth. Like,
Right.
no
Yeah, leftist, exactly. All right. Sorry, folks. I'm just I had a whole slew of programming set up, but then last second I'm like, nah, we should talk about progressive victory. So I'm wondering where to start. Let's start with start with some music. Okay. Famous leftists like Destiny. I mean, liberal. Let's be real here. Let's be real who these people actually are. Best thing to start was probably that 10-minute Sunday video where he nails Wick. Where, yeah, can you link that? I want to start status quo enthusiast, exactly. Also, I've been told that you got to have a more clickbait and more clickbaity title for streams to get viewers, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm calling out leftist streamers who are getting money from the fucking Democrats to shill for Genocide Joe. Yeah, I'm not sure where to start. Oh, here we go. Okay. Because I'm surprised this isn't a bigger deal, to be honest. Here we go. So President Sunday. So this is a guy. Freeloading Wick admits he's paid to do nothing. So those of you who might remember, this is totally normal and above board and legal, and lots of people do things like this. Those of you who might remember, I went on a debate panel with arguing in favor of communism and against capitalism, and alongside me was Non-Smoker, who is on the right side of Marxism, and who's the other guy? Was it Socrates? Or Socrates was, I think he was a communist, not necessarily a Marxist, but he was arguing against communism. Tried to get me to talk about right as in MAGA, not the, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot more exposition on MAGA communism. It's still in the works of launching a podcast of essentially being the knowledge fight of Infrared, Haas, Hinkle, Caleb Maupin. So yeah, that's kind of what we're starting. So I'm really excited to be launching this project. I'm not going to say what the name of it is yet, but I am very much looking forward to it. We're going to record our first episode in a couple of weeks, mostly as an introductory episode, and then we're going to take on Midwestern Marx. We're going to take on Haas, Caleb Maupin, Jackson Inkle. Like I said, there's no shortage of content to dive into these fraudsters of Marxism and the insult they are to the working class. They all have podcasts. They all have platforms, Fucking Jackson Hinkle is the most engaged person on Twitter because Elon Musk followed him, and Hinkle happened to be right and very quick and early on Israel-Palestine. And that's what garnered him a following. But then he goes on and talks about how, like, the American Revolution, the Communist Revolution, will be Christian-based. He calls himself a Christian Marxist-Leninist. And, you know, I don't consider myself a Marxist-Leninist. I am a Marxist and a Leninist. But, like, people like these guys, they do a disservice to Marxist-Leninism. I think there's a lot of genuine and very serious Marxist-Leninists in the world who are serious about revolution. You know, I just disagree with them about, you know, past figureheads and major aspects of theory, but I think for the most part we are all on the same page, especially if your Marxist-Leninism is on an international basis with an international outlook. Then I would consider you my comrade, of course. Despite not being a left activist for years, Hinkle only ever tweeted once with a cafe prior to October 7th. No protests or actions. He even praised Bibi months later. See, I'm only relatively new to leftism, to be perfectly honest. But I did attend a pro-Palestine rally prior to October 7th as well. I never had a cafe until recently. In my defense, like I'm still very much a baby leftist. But the folks that I'll be sharing this podcast with, these guys go back like to like Occupy Wall Street and before. My comrade Doug Green, he's been on this show talking about Zionism and Marxism, Marxist historian. He met Norman Finkelstein. He has encountered a lot of prominent figures even before they were huge. He has the distinct honor of being one of the first people blocked by Caleb Maupin. Caleb Maupin kept saying that he refuses to debate him. And then Doug goes, I mean, I would debate you, but you would, I would spank you in public, but you'd probably get off on it, so I don't want to do that. It was so fucking funny. Hinkle's been an activist for years, including a stint on Nancy Pelosi's youth council, and, you know, and we're going to play clips. We're going to have like a whole episode dedicated to Hinkle, where he starts off with like he says, I'll do anything for clout. I'll do anything for clicks and clout, and he just does whatever it takes. And he just happened to stumble upon, you know, tailing the most reactionary right-wing dipshits and calling it Marxism. In fact, maybe as a little teaser, I could play something for you. And this is coming soon. Might be faster to open Audacity, but I'm going to play the opening intro. All right, I'm going to pause the synthwave. As much as I'm grooving on this synthwave, we're going to pause it for now. Where the hell is it coming from? There it is. Okay, so imagine this is the opening to a podcast. Listen. All right. Yeah. So that little stinger there for you. Anytime Alex Jones talks about Marxism is just perfect for sound bites. And we got Resist White with the horses. Anyway, so we call them patsies, patriotic socialists. People who argue that socialism needs to be patriotic. and I think that's the absolute wrong way to go about revolution, especially when you're in an imperialist country. If the horse does not fit, you must acquit. Oh, god damn it. God damn it, resist white. Okay, so yeah, I know you guys, while you're here, you clicked on the title and you saw that there's a whole shitload of leftist streamers who call themselves leftists anyway, who are just shills for the DNC.
Twitter have talked shit about your fucking Icarus.
I'm not mad that
climb
is or
and fall.
isn't successful.
Hi, Sunday. I'm sure you'd be welcome on the panel right now. You have some good criticism. Hey, if somebody wants to bring me on, I'll pop on. For a little bit, I'm feeling grossly under the weather, but I'd be happy to. Here I was hoping I could log off soon. I'm so goddamn tired.
He's always sleepy.
A pack that I don't know what the decision-making process. One is disagreeing with that, and the other one is saying I haven't seen any evidence presented that justifies the payment that's being made. There's two different things. One is making a statement that they are wrong. The other is saying I haven't seen anything. I don't care what you think, Wick. I don't give a Wick.
Who are you?
So hold on. I don't give a fuck, Snaggletooth.
Who are you, Wick?
Wick, literally more people know who I am than
Who
you.
the fuck?
You
Okay, you guys remember I went on a panel. I was with Wick. So the only one of these clowns that I recognize is this dude here. I was invited on a panel to talk about capitalism, and it went about as well as you could as it could go. I think I got a lot of positive reaction from chat, so I'm happy with how I came off. I mean, like, really all you got to do is point out like why capitalism's failing, and it's really not hard, because this was my argument for capitalism failing. Just gesture broadly at everything. Like, how do you look at the world and be like, oh, capitalism's doing great? It's crazy how you can't see it, you know? So that was my first and only debate panel I've ever been on. I don't know if I want to ever do it again, but at the same time, this channel is pretty stagnant at the moment. I try to rebrand. I don't know. I just need to stream more, I guess. I don't know. Or I need to give up on streaming. They've also open right-wingers involved, Lauren. The Laguna counterpoints, Sprouticus, and Tiberius D counterpoints is the top right in the video. Okay, so we'll watch this video. And we'll see how this goes.
Jesus, nobody knows who any of you people are.
Yeah,
This is all you have. You have to
Brilliant.
You have to do the mean girl
contribution to the
stick where
panel
you
again.
act like
Thank
who
you,
mega
Dom.
lol are you? You're not willing to actually engage with the arguments being made, Wick.
You haven't made an argument. All you're
Let's
saying is we don't think that we don't think you should be
this
paid
guy's
because we
fucking
don't
life.
like you.
He's fucking
This
a
is the
military
argument.
recruit,
We don't
groomed him in
think
high
you
school.
should be paid because we don't like you.
Can I have a
Content.
quick question?
Okay,
Can I ask
don't
a...
watch my content. This ain't. Look,
Could I ask
it's
a-
not-
I never made
Oh,
any.
You consent to pay Wick Progressive Victory.
Could I ask a quick question? I've got two. I've got.
Oh, man.
I just have two quick
I'm
questions. So
Okay, so let's get this right. So this guy here, no, top right is Sunday. This is President Sunday, a left-leaning Vaush orbiter. Okay, so he shills for Vaush? Is that right? He's been running left cover for Vaush. Oh, Vaush is also going to be probably involved. Because, again, that's someone that people are attracted to. In terms of like seeking out left-wing content, right? A lot of youth and a lot of people online are really, really disaffected by capitalism, but there is no genuine left-wing movement that's channeling them towards Marxism and towards revolutionary conclusions and towards theory. It's just a bunch of vibes and feels, and nobody wants to do the fucking reading. It's bullshit. Like, another Trotsky is telling me to fucking go get fucked. It's arguments like this. I'm not reading Marx. He was white. Sue me. Like, it's gonna take more than experience and vibes to understand how capitalism works. It's like, yeah, we're all being crushed to death under the system. But like, if you don't understand how the system works, you cannot actively and functionally go after it. I'm not reading Marx, he was white to me. This is my favorite anti-Marxist argument because it requires absolutely no thought process and no reasoning and no argument whatsoever. It's so fucking stupid. This guy's name's Afro Misandry. I'm surprised I'm not blocked. I have a lot of Black Revolution and queer text I do want to read and value, but I'm not seeing it for cracker-constructed socio-political lens. My moot was pointing out someone who incorporated his analysis into their own, and I do see value in that. He was a German Jew in the 19th century. You can definitely work off of it, but you can get the same lessons from a different source quite easily. Oh, you just don't read LOL next. There's a really good point in here. If you did read Marx, it would do wonders in fixing this bankrupt and reactionary racial nationalism that you're pushing, that you're displaying. It's an evolving doctrine, not a set in stone dogma. I can get behind this. Some of the best Marxists are not white, and some of the greatest revolutions in history have been led by non-white people. In fact, the majority of revolutions that have been inspired by Marx have been by non-white people. But sure, let's focus on the genitals and skin colors of people who wrote books 150 years ago. As you shouldn't. I read Marx and still learned more about capitalism from people outside of academia. And of course not white. You're not a comrade and I'm not white. Woof. Shots fired. We're so cooked, we're never getting communism. The capitalist won. Yep. Yeah, read Fanon. Even read Mao. I'm not above. There's lots of good stuff to be taken from Mao for sure. I'm looking forward to reading Mao. Nice try, FBI. What's precisely is the difference between identity politics, progressives, and white supremacists? They both focus on the speaker and not on what is being said. I agree with that. The Black Revolutionaries, you all read Marx. Read those and you may be able to read his work and maybe you'll glean enough knowledge through them and won't need to read Marx. The point is to get the information, not necessarily read a specific person's books. Listen to Kwame Ture. There was one really, really good comment in here that probably got fucking... Read Lenin, he was Asian. Anyway, just the thing is though, you cannot take on the system with just vibes. Is all we're trying to say.
You personally, how do you feel about homosexuality?
I don't give too much of a shit what people do behind closed doors with consenting adults.
Fucking bass Tony Soprano right here.
What is it, my fault? You're twice as likely to be robbed by a black...
Okay. All right. Anyway, back to this shit show.
I want to hear President Sunday
no.
because this is a conversation he's excited about. I'm desperate to hear what he has to say.
I'm so glad actually because the first one is for you. And I am very curious. You mentioned something a little ways back. Not sure how far back it was now. We were covering this on stream earlier. So you mentioned that the amount of money that Progressive Victory was offering you was enough to make you work 30 plus hours a week.
Shouldn't have thought. How could this
It's
get worse?
not okay. I might have exaggerated a little bit. Do you want me to divide up my annual salary rate and see how many hours I would normally work for what PV is paying me?
Oh, I just was wondering if you'd be willing to sort of ballpark what type of income we're talking here, because I don't know what 30 hours looks like to you.
Let's just say it's 20% of my monthly income. So it's not enough for me to be rich, but it's enough to help out with the fucking bills. I'll tell you that.
And would you say you're sort of in like middle income bracket?
I don't know their pay scale.
Okay, cool. Here's a question for you, Wick, because this is the thing that perplexed me quite a bit. I have no resentment towards you taking money from Progressive Victory whatsoever, but I can't help but notice that Progressive Victory takes money, I presume, primarily from...
I would 100% take as much money as Progressive Victory is willing to offer, and then I would use that to fund everything that I can to take them down. You know what I mean? I think that'd be hilarious. So if you guys see me shilling for the Democrats, just out of the blue, that's why. That's what happened. So just and I'm sure you guys will be in on it. I'm gonna be doing this a lot. Something wrong with my eye.
Donations. I don't think they're a for-profit.
I honestly have no idea. How
Okay,
their money.
but I am curious if they are indeed paying you to help, their organization, spread its message, get more people involved. Why is it that you haven't uploaded a video in 2 months? Like, why is it that every single video you have is like a 2-hour stream?
My editor's going through it, dude.
But I don't work for Progressive Victory. I don't get a stipend. But when I didn't have an editor, I cut up my VODs and I published videos. And I wasn't paid to do that for myself. It's just a little bit perplexing.
Video editing is actually like really easy, especially if all you're doing is just clipping your own show and uploading it. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I've been doing video, although again, like I've been doing video editing since high school. I've been running like the earliest possible, like Adobe Premiere 4.0, I think is how I learned to edit, like non-linear editing. Invented by George Lucas, actually, believe it or not.
See, if I was being paid by an activist organization to make content or to be a presence or to benefit them at all, I wouldn't take the money and just sit on it for that long.
To upload videos.
Well, what are you being paid for then? What are you being paid for?
I'm paid to go to a meeting every week.
So they are paying you. They are paying you because they are just so... They just take so much pleasure in your presence at meetings. No, not as content. He said he's not being paid to make content. They just love him being at meetings.
Yes,
so to be clear,
brilliant.
Yeah. So when that's cool, Connor. So Wick, when somebody donates to Progressive Victory because they want to make a difference politically, and it's going to you, they're paying to put you on like a vid chat for an hour to what?
For what? Yeah.
For what? What is this doing? It sounds like it's just being tossed into the sea.
This is the one answer. This is the one question you will never answer, Wick.
It's the question that I would love to answer, by the way.
Go ahead.
No.
Can you justify your existence?
Several times what I
Let
do.
him answer.
We've said this several times.
Wick
what
answer?
I do. I go in. We talk about issues of the day. We talk about other streamers. We talk about other content we've done. We've talked about all these things. I can't give you.
So just to be clear, you're being paid to produce no content. You're being paid to produce no content and to chill in a Discord call. That's what you're being paid to do. You're taking donations.
Okay, Sunday you gotta chill and let other people speak. Okay.
Nah.
I would like to share.
Can I finish?
Please, Wick, and then I would like to share my thoughts as well.
And so we brainstorm, we come up with ideas on how to present content, what content even fucking matters, how we can like
the content you don't make.
People, right? Things like that. What do you mean I don't make content?
You don't make content. You stream for 2 hours a day. Other people do the majority of the work because they're panels, and you upload nothing. 2 months, Wick. You couldn't get a single cut in 2 months. What are you doing all day long?
Available?
Yeah, are the VODs on my YouTube? You can go look at them right now. I have a show with
the quality is not up to the President Sunday standards. That's
the quality is not. Your channel's not self-sustaining. It seems like once Progressive Victory started paying you, you took that as an opportunity to do less work. So you're not benefiting them at all, are you? You're just taking.
Okay, so it sounds like Wick is actually the smart one here. I take it back. I think for doing no work, Wick is honestly like, by siphoning money away from the DNC that might have been used for someone else to produce content. Wick is actually doing a public service here. I will defend Wick in this.
You're just taking a free ride. You're a freeloader, Wick.
A freeloader.
You're a
because
freeloader.
I don't have an editor right
With
now.
1, 2.
Is President Sunday? Is he in favor of Biden? Because like I'm gonna comment on here. Like I really want to make that point. Critical support for Wick. Sundays of the mighty must vote for Biden because Trump is so bad. Okay, well, yeah, I think genuine leftists should really be wary of those arguments by now. Like, it doesn't work anymore, and that's too bad, because how many times does the DNC have to tell leftists to fuck off over and over and over before they get the hint? Okay, fine. We're not going to show up to the election. Oh, well, you just got Trump elected. Well, no, that's your fucking fault. Because you ran this mummy that has to be wheeled around on a fucking gurney.
A freeloader? Okay.
Wick,
I mean,
what
if
the
that's
fuck
the
did you
criticism
do to
you're
these
going
people,
with.
man?
Why does everyone care about Wick's teeth? This is so
Because they're
fucking-
Because
they're
no, I can actually explain this very quickly, Kelly. So Wick put a GoFundMe for $3,000 saying it was urgent. He needed his front teeth
No,
repaired.
I know this, but
No.
why do we care about his teeth? This is
Because it demonstrates that he's once again like taking advantage of people who are willing to give him money.
also
On
know that,
Okay, that's
like,
different.
When he went to the dentist,
Shit.
apparently there
I mean, like, GoFundMe, like, people are willingly donating their money and they know exactly what it's going for. Like, that's on them. Who cares?
was more work that needed to be done, and
Yes.
the price went up. So we found that out.
So we bought
I don't know if
Boulder.
people just don't know that. but-
So we hang on. So we bought
of
Baldur's Gate
yeah.
3, and a year later, it just nothing happened.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So this is
You know,
amazing to me.
Baldur's
This
Gate 3
is-
is a similar price to thousands worth of dental care.
It's like $100.
So
If you're
Okay, this is a dumb ad hominem attack. Stick to the fucking point, man.
if you're not able, if you're taking
I would like to
$3,000.
rebut what you're saying.
People with bad
If you're
teeth
taking-
are-
President Sunday,
I don't
would like to
care,
rebut
Connor.
what
It's
you're
I don't care,
to
Connor.
enjoy a game
Hey, Connor,
sometime.
I'm not your wife. You can't grab my arm.
I swear to God, I will kick
Oh my god, everyone's audio fucking sucks. But I think that's the problem with Discord. We toyed with the idea of recording the podcast through Discord, and Discord's just audio just fucking sucks.
President Sunday, I would love to rebut.
Oh,
what
but I
you're
like
saying,
you,
that
though.
you're
Your voice is
engaged in
cool.
a conversation for the first time. So what you're doing is you're coming onto a stream in order to bully a working class man because he doesn't make as much money as you want him to. And when he found out that he had complex
Who's his
dental
boss?
surgery that was going to cost more than the GoFundMe, he chose to not do the surgery and instead take care of his material basic needs. You as a leftist are bullying a working class man with medical issues.
Yeah,
And
that's
to be clear,
your
the money hasn't been
that's your
spent
move?
on anything, right? The money's still there when I can raise enough and get enough through other
No,
means.
what's this concern
Hold
trolling
on,
bullshit?
what's
Why don't
your-
make a real argument? Why don't I actually talk about the issue? Why do these concern
Because I
trolling bullshit?
find it wildly fascinating that leftists think that the best use
Do-
of their
what- do-
time is
do you think
bullying
all
a
leftists
working
think
class
you can
man
just-
with
you can
fucking
just
dental
scam-
issues.
You think all
All
leftists
right,
think
you
can
all
just scam
fucking
other working
bully
class
each other. It doesn't really
You can
make
just-
much fucking difference.
You can scam other working class people. You're doing that Sunday's position.
Who said scam? He said the money's still available. He said he's
Yeah,
working on
but,
getting more in order to fix his
it's
teeth.
No, if you said
Right.
that it's used on his material basic needs and it wasn't used for the purpose stated in the GoFundMe, then that's a
I
scam.
said that. He didn't say
Yeah,
that.
Yes,
That was my
yes, I'm
presumption.
operating with
No.
your hypothetical, you fucking spoke. What did you have for breakfast this morning? I'll
Well,
fucking-
obviously,
So, Queen, wait a minute,
obviously,
hold
all the
on.
money he's getting from
Engaging-
Progressive Victory is
engaging
going
not in the
towards his dental
hypothetical.
fund. That's why he hasn't funneled it into his content.
So
Stop
engaging
talking
not with
about
the
his teeth,
hypothetical.
you speds. All right,
So
fucking stop.
engaging not with the hypothetical, but with material reality.
That's pretty
That was a
funny.
joke, I'm not dead.
I will not be that. Okay, so yeah, this was originally launched by Brianna Wu. Oh my god, I have so much shit. Hey, no. Stop union bust. ACOM's trying to give me a job. Stop union busting, then we'll talk. right, is this guy. What the fuck? Go away. I hate LinkedIn so much. So tell me if I've only heard of a few of these. She was the person picking streamers for the org. She's okay. She was the streamer. She picked streamers for the org, and so this is, yeah. So like this is straight up being tweeted out by Progressive Victory. So it's not really, we're not really exposing it, but like, because like they're doing it themselves. Some folks on here I am disappointed with. Nina Turner. Like, how many times has Nina Turner been burned? Right? Bleepbop Ben? Like, as far as I know, the only actual Marxist on this list. The Serfs, that's not surprising. I have no idea who the rest of these are. Riverboat Jack. Frogan. Disappointing. With a bunch of TYT people affiliated. I see. John Latarola is a TYT host. Ravana. I knew about Ravana. Nina Turner and Riverboat Jack were all working for TYT. Okay. And Shark is a vouch defender. Oh, good. Excellent. View quotes. Can anyone explain this PV list? Are these the secretly paid people? Yeah, probably. Anyway, I don't have much of an audience. I've got 6 viewers, but I really hope that this shines some light on this bullshit. I'm not saying I'm jealous. I'm a little bit jealous because, again, people like Wick are getting paid who knows how much for doing absolutely nothing, which is incredible. Yeah, I'd go sit with a meeting and call them all scumbags. They're somehow tied to Rebellion Pack with his Jenks grift. Okay. So, yeah, I have a huge problem with this. And why do we have a huge problem with it, folks? It's because like, I remember this was very public a few months ago where the DNC was paying TikTok influencers to talk about how great the economy is when people can't afford eggs. That was a big thing on TikTok, and now it's happening to a lot of so-called leftist streamers. Leftist streamers are getting a shitload of money from the Progressive Victory PAC to get you to vote for the Democrats. I don't follow streamer beef. Are these folks getting money from Dem Consultant? Yeah, that's basically what it is. They're getting paid to do fundraising for canvassing events, to go out to events and go to meetings to coordinate messaging. Yeah, because somewhere, some Dem aide was like, well, obviously messaging is the problem and not the fact that the Democrats are actively abating and supporting a genocide. The fact that the Democrats keep, they're sending trillions of dollars to the like Waffen SS Airsoft Battalion to get all their tanks destroyed within hours of hitting the front lines in Ukraine. To stoke war by sending by also signing off on billions of dollars worth of aid packaging and military funding for Taiwan to stoke to fan the flames with China. And these people are now actively being paid to push that agenda. The Vouch clip is pretty telling given his record of confessional jokes. Yeah, keep the clips coming, Resist White.
What's up, gamers and activists? December 6th, starting at 1 p.m. PT, I'm going to be starting a 24-hour live stream where I'll be playing the first 3 Halo games, God willing, to fundraise for the Progressive Victory 2022 team. These guys have filled thousands of volunteer slots, mostly with members of my community. We're talking heroes going out there affecting races, both local and federal, and I want to make sure they can keep doing what they're doing. It's a fundraiser stream, baby. You're going to come over, you're going to watch me be bad at video games. I'm actually very good, okay? And then you're going to give me, and by me I mean them, it's an Act Blue link, lots of money. Hopefully, or you can just chill and watch, but please do tell people and have them tune in because, I'm actually not that experienced with Halo. Maybe I'll do some funny, goofy gamer moments, huh? do some wacky monetizable YouTube content that we can translate into real world good. I hope I can see you there. What's up, gang?
Anyway, public speaking and delivery, very good, but like that's like people do not see through the content. He's getting paid on the back end somehow, almost certainly. Yeah, that's why he'll never quit, despite the like what should be a career-ending scandal for this dude. This guy right here. Let's get some horses in the chat. Someone liked my comment at 3 minutes 10 seconds. This is from 7 months ago.
Not a zoophile, even though a lot of you think so.
Oh, sure. Okay. When the money's good, you can convince yourself genuinely of anything. Yeah, and these people, their job now is to shill for the Democrats. And it's some names on there. I'm not at all surprised, like I said. Like the Surfs, Ravana, Riverboat Jack, none of this shit surprises me. You know, when you have no theory for the basis of your leftist beliefs, then yes, you will convince yourself of anything. Yeah, mostly a lot of these are Young Turks orbiters. But like I said, like I'm a little disappointed with Nina Turner, although like, you know, why should I be? But honestly, Ben is the biggest disappointment here. Bleep Blop Ben. Crub. I don't even know what that is. Ethan is online. Is that Ethan Klein? Most of them genuinely believe that voting blue is what Marx would have done. Oh my god, I just fucking kill myself. Unreal. I'll be very heartbroken if some of my favorite streamers start doing it. I know Chapo Trap House has a very strict fuck Joe Biden stance. Probably not going to vote for him. Be very disappointed if Kyle Communist, although he doesn't have much, he doesn't get much viewership these days. I think there's not a lot of demand for genuine Marxist content on Twitch, but Kyle has like 14,000 followers, but right now we have the same amount of viewers. It's crazy. Who are these people? I don't see Ethan is online anywhere. Anyway. Oh, and so the guy we just watched, President Sunday, debated F-bombs. F-bombs is another streamer. He kind of broke the story. Benny may not be involved anymore, and she said she was taking a paycheck from Cenk when she did this. It may have been semi-obligatory, but still, yeah, disappointing. I'd be curious to see what Ben says, or what Benny says. And this is actually really good. This is a really good quote by Marx as to why Marxists should not be supporting the Democrats. We should be running on an independent class ticket. Even where there is no prospect of achieving their election, the workers must put up their own candidates to preserve their independence, to gauge their own strength, and to bring their revolutionary position and party standpoint to public attention. They must not be led astray by the empty phrases of the Democrats, who will maintain the workers' candidates will split the Democratic Party and offer the forces of reaction the chance of victory. All such talk means, in the final analysis, that the proletariat is to be swindled. The progress which the proletarian party will make by operating independently in this way is infinitely more important than the disadvantages resulting from the presence of a few reactionaries in the representative body. if the forces of democracy take decisive terroristic action against the reaction from the very beginning, the reactionary influence in the election will already have been destroyed. This right here is why workers need to run independently on their own, on an independent working class party that is from Address of the Central Committee to the Communist League, March 1850. And that might as well have been written last week, honestly. You're the only good streamer in my books. Looking at a word with a new Checo when the post-rev streamer trials begin. I'll do my... thank you, Grim. I appreciate that. I'll do my best. Hopefully some folks in the IMT still like me. Decision, action, and terrorism against the forces of reaction. How about a tactical N-word? Anyway, yeah, the thing is, like, the theory has been written for you. Your job is to fucking read it and understand it. Not this shit. Anyway, Resist White, you also posted a debate between... So that guy we just watched, that Vaush Orbiter. I think this was it. Yeah, no, okay, sorry, wrong clip. The Wu conspiracy goes all the way to the top. Oh, they're actually debating here? Oh, okay, it's through Discord, and so Discord's not going to do the green screen. This looks like a prison like videogram. Because I thought you posted something as a debate that starts 20 minutes in. Is this it? Oh, okay, never mind.
Eat food. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Anything specific?
Thinking a burger, but I'm not sure.
Let's watch it at a little bit fast. A little bit faster.
For Canadian, don't you think?
I'm on the West Coast. It's pretty American.
Okay.
I mean, our food's pretty American. It just has less diversity. It's higher quality ingredients, but almost everything is just pub food with too much cheese on it.
I think my stream just froze.
Did it?
Yeah. If that's the case, I don't really care. I'm not going to restart.
Anyway, so this guy called out Wick for not doing anything, which is good, but then this guy is the one that really broke the story. This is F-bombs for you on Twitch. That's this guy here. This is just like, I don't know what the hell's going on. He's watching a clip of his own show. That's kind of crazy, but still. He must be using it to like overlap. This is the most dialectical way, I guess, to use Twitch. is the original debate followed by commentary and then commentary on that commentary. And so it's just a spiral instead of a circle. That's great. I love that, actually. The more I sit on this, the more I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's pretty based.
Start it. They'll just come over.
Okay, that's fine. Feel free to rip the VOD from here if you want.
Word. Thank you.
No worries. So what do you want to talk about?
Okay, so people tell me I have a tendency to not be able to stick to anything, so I'm trying to keep some notes to keep myself on track. I do, before I forget, want to start by saying kudos on all the dubs you've been taking lately.
I've been taking dubs lately?
Oh, yeah, everywhere. It's been fun to watch.
I'll take your word for it. Thank you.
Oh, you don't take my word. The community has spoken. And that being said, though, you're quite the man of integrity and high moral character. But I guess why would you say that Voss should lie about his fascination with the equine behind? That just because he's a lonely man looking for laying with a Shetland pony, he dreams of a galleon from a stallion and to feel the wang of a stang. He just wanted to buck a bronco and give some head to Mr. Ed. Why won't you just let him enjoy his life?
Yeah, I can tell you had to write that down.
I did.
I I didn't say he should lie. I would say he shouldn't lie.
I just thought that was fun. I wasn't gonna fuck you on that.
All right.
So what was your take on that ultimately?
My take on that? Oh God, I've got like 4 hours covering.
Okay, okay. If it's...
Just putting it very quickly. Oh, you've disappeared again. Still
No,
with
it's
me?
okay. I just had to. There we go.
It looks bad. If there's
he should
an
quit.
angle where he can claim ignorance of the content that was on his computer, which is a metaphysical possibility, then he should go that route if that is indeed the case. Otherwise, it's a series of very stupid decisions: downloading the material, searching it in the first place, downloading material, playing around with his files on stream while that's on his work computer, having stuff like that on his work computer at all, even if it was regular pornography. That's like, come on, man.
Right.
It's just and then afterwards, once it's up, like, and once
People got to
are,
treat their streamer
railing at you for it.
computers
Don't try to lash back, especially when
like a workstation, bro.
Many times your size, like, be the nice kid. Try to solicit a conversation where you can make your case. Because, and my reason for saying that is because whether he's as bad as the
FBI handler,
or he's not, it's just a horrible series of misunderstandings and mistakes and accidents. It's easier to figure that out in either direction if he's not getting pummeled with, people being willing to not interrogate it too closely because he himself has not earned that charity because he's gone after people in an equally uncharitable way. And I have no argument for people who choose to do so. Just on the off chance someone's like, hey, do we actually care about this being airtight? I've got a few questions that I would want answered first, but I would absolutely never advise him to lie.
I didn't watch that much of it. I was trying to catch up, but the thing of constantly admitting you haven't seen something and then having a solid stance because chat told you he said something is probably not very wise to react to.
Our psyops are dog shit now. Yeah.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. Vosh said he didn't watch it.
He didn't watch
right?
what? Oh, the Ethan thing.
Yeah, correct.
With the horse porn.
Right. Yeah.
And but he kept responding to things that were said that he didn't see.
So are they going to talk about Progressive Victor, or are they talking about Vouch in this video? Because I think we talked about Vouch last week. I've never liked Vouch. Obviously, again, he's one of those guys. He claims to pull people from the right, but then acts as a barrier to stop people from coming to revolutionary conclusions. In fact, there's a really funny video where Vouch accidentally discovers permanent revolution. It's really funny. Without even realizing it, but he also hates Trotsky because of the Kronstadt, which, like, whatever. I don't care. Cry me a river. We have our own internal debates about the Kronstadt and how it should have been handled, but I'm like, no, I'm sorry, counter-revolutionaries. Tough shit, tough break. So never liked Vouch. Always found him to be annoying, and then it's just one thing after another of like horse porn jokes, lolicon jokes. And it's like, you know what? There's a lot going on here. And the fact that like this guy on the right still won't come out and call Vouch a pedophile is kind of frustrating. But then again, it's like Vouch still garners a big audience, and the fact that we're still talking about him means that he has some value for the DNC, which is why they're going to keep paying him. And if they really wanted to, they could probably pull him out of this hole because they're pretty good at it.
Just like people in chat
crisis
telling them what was
management.
said.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, if you
really interesting
what they were saying in chat, I don't.
That's a lot.
No, he was responding about how he felt about Ethan doing those things, but he didn't actually see them. Just chat did it.
Okay.
It's not that important. I'm not going to argue.
Well, that's I think streaming that day was a mistake.
Yeah. Okay. We agree on that.
Okay.
All right. So what I wanted to talk about.
Serious. You're getting free theory. Stop complaining. We're just doing this conversation first. It's free. The meter didn't fill.
Free theory.
Free theory.
Free theory. He's an anarchist.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is now that Wu
What
is
theory?
gone. We talked 3 months ago, and my concern wasn't really about Wu, but it's impossible to talk about without talking about Wu, so it becomes a little distracting. Now that Wu's gone, what do you think of what's going on with PV and the streamers?
I think they're a bunch of dumb kids who don't know what they're doing. It's simple as that. What do you think?
Would I be correct to assume they didn't approach you when they approached everybody else?
Yeah, but that's probably because most of the people who were approached because of Wu's recommendations.
That's what I meant, because of your relationship.
And
with Wu.
I beefed with Wu before she was involving everybody.
$100 for shit you can read online for free?
I mean, I'm conjecturing,
Jesus.
but I think it's a reasonable inference.
Am I right that you were gonna do something to expose Wick in September before he came out and said something?
Expose Wick in September for what?
That you were gonna put out information about Wick being paid by PV, and then he put it out. That's the argument I've heard on a stream.
No,
Wick
being
disclosure.
Hang on, Wick being paid by PV isn't a secret, right?
Well, no, okay, so Wick did the stream, or Wick made a disclosure in September, the first and only time until now.
Let me know if you need me to turn it up, guys.
The relationship, but the accusation was made. I think it was on JStock's stream. The accusation was made that he only did that disclosure under duress from you.
Yeah, I don't know if somebody said that. I clearly missed it. I've never considered it a scandal that Wick is paid by PV. I think it's a scandal that money is wasted on PV, but I don't think I never said it was a secret.
Well, regardless of a scandal, was it accurate that
he disclosed
that Wick
his
was
funds?
aware you were going to do something?
I don't know what he could possibly have been aware I was going to do. I didn't threaten anything like that.
Okay.
The only finances that I had like privy information to, and that was for a brief period, was just the and I don't even know if it was privy.
He's admittedly very right-wing university. Interesting.
Panels on.
I will say almost the same thing. I definitely was very, very like right-leaning liberal in university.
Perception that he did.
I found a lot of liberals in university annoyed me, but I didn't really know why.
The rebellion ones. That was
but that's not PV though. That's the pack.
That was rebellion. That was July.
I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah, and then Chud did the stream with Brianna where she was mad at you.
Yeah.
And then she was afraid of TOS, and then it changed to PV.
Yeah.
And then in September, Wick.
Yeah. So like just to pin that for a second, if Wick is switching to being paid through PV as a contractor, say, right, as opposed to being paid by a pack, because
right.
PV is more than one organization.
Yep.
Then Wick being paid by PV is precisely not a secret. The entire reason for him being paid by PV is because that's above board. That's safer than being paid through Brianna's pack, if indeed that was ever the plan. And I suspect given the fact that they had a whole bunch of people on this.
When you say above board, what do you mean?
I mean, it doesn't create any complications by violating the TOSs of the platforms that they're doing their work on. I don't think there's any reason.
They're not getting paid for the work.
I
thought they were getting paid for the meetings.
They're getting paid for the meetings on paper. That I think is the reason why they're getting paid. But like, I'm
how's that above board? How's it above board that they're saying
legal.
They're getting paid for a meeting and we know it's not true? Like they left Rebellion Pack where Rebellion Pack said we're paying for this thing.
Yeah.
To PV where PV says we're not paying for this thing, but we all know they are. That's less above board than when Rebellion did it.
No, by above board I mean it's legal.
Also, just occurred to me, Lance at the Surfs is Canadian, and it's interesting that they're involving him as well. I wonder what the legality is behind that.
Proper, appropriate. It was legal when Rebellion Pack did it. It just was TOS.
Okay, I really don't want to have to take this angle on this, but what is specifically inappropriate about them being paid for the meetings besides the fact that it's a waste of money?
I didn't say it was inappropriate. I said it's not true.
What's not true?
They're not getting paid for the meetings.
I'm pretty sure they were explicit they're being paid for the meetings. This is what everyone said for PV.
Okay, so when Kid Not Kin said,
yeah, I think that's the implication. Brianna Wu went on Chud Logic stream and said Rebellion Pack was paying streamers for content. Now they're getting paid because that's like TikTok was the one in the news because everyone knows what TikTok is. Nobody in the news knows what Twitch is. Paying streamers for content months ago. Now they're getting paid to go to meetings, not for content. Right? They're just you're just paying them to hang out. Sure.
And if they don't do the content, they get free money.
And then they do these fundraisers for this pack so then they can pay volunteers to go door knocking for Democrats.
But
so they're still selling their labor. They're just doing it like in a way that's Keffels, Lonerbox, Chud Logic, Not So Erudite, and some others are not American and have been involved with PV. Keffels, really. I guess Keffels will like literally do anything on stream for money, I guess. It's only illegal for foreigners to give money to campaigns. Streamers are telling people abroad how to phone bank for Bernie 4 years ago. Yes, that's true. I was phone banking for Bernie. And the fundraising also pays for the streamers who get paid. Interesting. Very interesting. To get you to door knock for again, the reason I'm doing this stream is to get people to door knock for a party that is complicit in genocide, right? Then that's the problem, and that's why I'm calling out these leftist streamers. You know, as again, nobody gives a shit about my channel, so I have really nothing to lose here.
If they do the content, they get more money, and the more reach they get, the higher.
No.
Like this really should be a bigger deal.
It's not like a pay scale thing. What happens though is there's a de facto situation that emerges because people are entangled with each other's channels through PV. So, for example, you're incentivized to do content that
incentivized meaning money, right?
Well, yes, but not from PV. So what you're incentivized.
Shout out to my 3 streamers on YouTube.
Is by networking with.
Thank you for tuning in on YouTube.
So there's an incentive for smaller creators to start making content that encourages more interaction with these larger creators, and by the same token, interactions that discourage content that discourages interactions with those larger creators, like maybe that attacks, for example, counterpoints as politics say. Well, that's gonna cause friction within the organization. That's gonna hurt you. Like that's basically all Kid Knockin is talking about. What his worry was that by being a smaller creator working with PV, he would be feeling
and I'm extremely young.
Thank you, Kat. I never ever get tired of that quote.
Financial pressure, not from like the actual writ of the contract he's signing, but just by the situation. He would be feeling financial pressure to make content that either like appealed to the other people in the organization or that didn't, for example, attack the opinions of people like Counterpoints, IRI, etc. Whoever's like big in the org.
So what you're saying is Kid turned down free money to not do content.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to do content.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So he turned down free money.
Yeah. Because all they're being
what you're saying is the free money that he turned down because he has morals and integrity is what's above board.
Yes.
So if it's above board and you have morals and integrity, why would you turn it down?
Because he didn't want to be in a situation where he was incentivized to make content that didn't reflect his actual beliefs and values.
I mean, the words you're using are different, but like what you're saying is these people, if they want to make more money, they know what content to do and they know who to talk to and they know who to work together with so that they can manipulate their community in this fake organic thing and they can get people to give them money under bullshit. Where am I wrong?
Can you say that one more time?
Oh, come on, man.
There are a number of creators that have created a multi-channel network.
Yes.
That the more they work together in a secret multi-channel network without the community knowing, the more eyeballs they get.
That's everybody. No, I've got
I've
got secret multi-channel networks. I've got people in my server who get creator roles, and I give them tips sometimes. Or like,
are they getting paid by a political organization with free money?
No.
Okay, so the idea that you're going to
support genocide,
free money is a normal fucking thing, like that is as retarded as it gets. Tell me where else everybody can give free money just for free money's sake, with no obligation.
Well, it's not free. They
obviously fucking not.
Yes, but here's the part that you're misunderstanding. The reason why these, and I'm confused as to why you're misunderstanding this. The reason why these people were involved was because the decision to include them was not based on some pragmatic organizer's idea of what would benefit the organization Progressive Victory. They were picked because these were people who would help promote Brianna Wu's personality on their channels. So
what are they doing
so
now
the conditions the conditions of their involvement were very, very poorly outlined and very poorly thought through.
And now what? They're still doing it, right? They're not working with Brianna Wu. They're still
because they didn't fire everybody with Brianna Wu, clearly.
Well, so then this had nothing to do with Wu. Somebody else created.
But it did though. What I'm saying is there's not a conspiracy in PV. What happened was people were brought on with very vague conditions for benefiting from the org. Because of Brianna Wu's influence, and then once she left, that obviously continued. But that's basically all there is to it.
So they only did it because of Wu, but they're still there doing it.
Well, because they're all contracted. They didn't just because they got rid of Wu for whatever reason. I
feel the same way, Grim.
Doesn't mean they're going to fire everybody or something, like change their entire
program. I desperately want all streamers to get real jobs.
Every streamer that works with PV.
If we can just shut down streaming, I'd be so happy. You have no idea.
When they watch a WIC panel,
and
you've got Connor, Erudite, Destiny, whoever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Destiny's involved in this.
Do all the people watching that channel know that those people secretly meet and discuss how to best present the information they're going to discuss on the show?
I mean, I would assume that's kind of a given, right? Like
it's a given that Connor is going to get together with the lefty and discuss the best ways to argue the thing they're going to argue on a panel. That's normal to you?
Well, that's what they've said explicitly. I think it's a bad decision. Once again, like, my issue with PV is that it seems to be very mismanaged, but I don't think there's anything particularly, like, I don't think there's a sinister plot behind the scenes.
All right. So if that's the case, there's a lot of people that don't have NDAs, right? So, like, you guys talk a lot. A lot of people were invited that didn't go. Some people, like Kid, went and then turned it down.
What do you mean by you guys talk a lot? Who are you referring to?
I mean the community. All of you guys.
But who's you guys? I'm not part of.
I mean, do you talk to Reservoir? Do you talk to Kid?
Like maybe once a month.
Okay, so when I say you guys, all right, let me take you out of that.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't mean to make it personal. You guys in general.
Yeah, renowned shithead and renowned pervert.
When
Destiny and Vouch.
Yeah.
Here's somebody talk about progressive victory.
Yeah.
In January.
Uh-huh.
Why doesn't he come out and tell us then what was going on at the meetings? Why does he say it's nothing instead of just telling us what was going on?
Well, because it sounds like there was really nothing going on at the meetings. Like, they were kind of boring. It seems like he went to 2. The first one, very little happened. The second one, they brought out the NDAs. He didn't sign one, so he didn't attend anymore.
If I gave you $100 right now, would that be boring?
No, do it.
So if Kid was going to get free money, that wasn't boring.
Oh, that wasn't a serious offer? Damn.
Well, I mean, it's as serious as it was the answers I'm getting here.
Come on, man.
I'm being pretty serious. I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to drive at.
Well, there's a big open secret in the community that a number of content creators were trying to obfuscate what you were looking at, what Kuiman was looking at, what I was looking at. They have no NDA, but they had a vested interest in helping protect the bag of people that they think are doing something nefarious. There's no way anybody here, especially
I don't think any of these people think they're doing something nefarious. Hey, look, if anyone's going to think they're doing something nefarious, it's going to be me, and I just think they're dumb.
You have a political organization giving away free money. Okay, that's normal. We're just going to call that normal.
It's really normal. The only thing that's abnormal about it is that they're giving it to streamers, which is an unwise investment. But beyond that, like, that's what those organizations do.
Yeah.
The streamers are
he's downplaying it.
Do the content.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Like
again, he's doing their work for him. Is President and President Sunday's not even getting paid, but really he's doing their work by downplaying and kind of like brushing it off. It's like, yeah, I know what's going on, but like, yeah, it's just, I think it's a waste of money. Everyone's dumb but me. Like, no, it actually would be very smart, especially if you're like I said about Wick, who is accidentally the funniest person in the room when he doesn't make any content and takes their money anyway. That is brilliant in my opinion.
Tax pay for things like advertisement, right? They pay for commercials and whatnot. Well, when they do that, they hire contractors out to produce those things. The only difference here is they've hired streamers.
So
no, they haven't hired them on paper to produce things. They've hired them on paper to come and discuss at meetings. I guess with the presumed benefit of we'll have a bunch of like.
But as someone who's been in a panel with Wick, I don't think he thinks that far ahead. Like, I'm not saying he's a dumb person, but I don't think that's where his brain went. But it would be extremely funny if that's how either way, it's really funny. Like, if he was doing it on purpose, deliberately taking their money and not producing content would be like, that would be so genius. I would be so fucking impressed.
Really well mentally prepared political streamers to, win the election for Biden or something. But that's fine. It's stupid, but it's fine.
Since Kidnakin said that I'm just a conspiracy theorist, maybe you can ask him at some point. When he said the streamers that are bigger streamers, they're on a different pay tier for their content than everybody else. What did he mean by that? Do you know?
Well, I would presume he means that the amount they're contracted for is higher than the smaller streamers. So maybe there's
based on.
Well, I would assume based on audience size. Probably pretty arbitrarily. Like, it's probably they just thought, ooh, Lonerbox won't accept any less than, but Wick, we can give Wick $1,000 because what's he gonna do otherwise? That kind of thing.
$1,000 for 2 hours of meetings with liberal dipshits.
It has everything to do with the size of their audience and their influence.
So they're getting paid for their content.
No, they're
not getting paid to consult with their opinion in a meeting.
But
their pay scale is based on their influence.
Yeah, but
not their influence.
No, but slow down.
In the meeting.
I think you're misunderstanding something. Their pay being based upon their influence, being based upon their channel size and their audience and so on and so forth. That doesn't mean that they have a chart somewhere where they go, okay, you have this many people in your audience, we're going to pay you this much. You have this many people in your audience, we're going to pay you this much. What it actually means is when they wrote up their contracts, they made offers, and they accepted offers, and they made bigger offers for bigger streamers and smaller offers for smaller streamers, with the understanding that for the smaller streamers, a smaller amount of money is going to be more than it is for the bigger streamers, because the bigger
So it
streamers
had
have more
nothing
money.
to do with the value of those streamers to the pack.
It had everything to do with it.
Well, what's the value differentiation between Wick and Vosh?
Vosh can reach a lot of people. Wick can reach no people.
But they're getting paid to consult at a meeting.
Yeah.
What's that got to do with reach?
It has nothing to do with reach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they're getting paid based.
But hang
on
on. They can.
But they're getting paid. They're getting paid based on the reach. But they're getting paid to consult, not for their reach.
No. They're being paid differently based on your reach. Does not mean that there's some strange discrepancy if they're paid nonetheless to do the same
So the
task,
reach
right?
the
Like, so
reach
let's say they were actors, okay? They were
Right.
actors and they were paid to be part of a cool little sit down talk table where famous people chat with each other, and a few people are from, like, you know, they're YTV extras, and some of them are, like, you know, Hollywood stars.
No,
The
I
Hollywood stars are going to be
understand.
paid more. The YTV
Sunday,
extras are going to be paid less, but they're going to be doing the same thing.
Let
right?
me try to TLDR this again for you. So
Sure.
they're randomly not on a direct pay plan with a business
Yeah,
opportunity.
the whole
right?
Dem apparatus spends
But
insane
the reason
amounts of money
the
on dumb
pay
shit
differential
constantly. Whatever
was
consultancy firm
initiated
came
and
up with this is getting
negotiated by the
exponentially more for than whatever they're
was
sending to
based
these
on the
clowns.
reach.
Yeah, exactly. $100 here or there, $1,000 for a 2-hour meeting every month to produce no content. Like, yeah, there is a consultancy firm that is siphoning millions of dollars out of the DNC, who is then spending like probably at least $1 billion to try and get Joe Biden elected. I'm only mad because I didn't think of it first. That, and I'm mad that so-called leftists are selling out. Like, somebody once said, when I first got into streaming, I saw someone say every streamer will strangle their closest family relatives, or like they'll strangle their family dog for 2 more subscribers. It's like, fuck, that is so dark.
An equation between negotiating and the reach of the streamer, correct?
I'm not clear that there was ever a negotiation. The only thing we
Okay,
know,
but as you said earlier, they're paid based on their reach.
I would assume they're paid differently based on their reach. I don't know their individual pay.
Okay.
You're
Then
assuming
tell me
logical
how when they
decisions
go to-
by a consultancy company that does nothing but try and sell the Kamala Harris to the public. Like, there's no logic behind this. I think President Sunday gives the Democrats the Progressive Victory PAC. He's giving them way too much credit that they know what they're doing.
To a meeting, there is a difference between one person's opinion to help the place figure out how to move forward. If all they're doing is giving their
There isn't
opinion,
one, but it's irrelevant.
So they're not getting paid to go to a meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they are being paid to go to a meeting. That's the terms of their contract. However, what determined how much they offer those streamers was determined by how much value they thought they would bring by being involved. Period. So this is the way it works on paper.
So they're not based on the value they
No,
give to the organization with their opinion.
But
they're consulting.
No,
they're consultants.
The consulting, not even the consulting, the attending the meetings is
no. We keep saying consulting.
Yep.
Let's just call it.
All the same people around 2016. Yeah, and they're doing the same playbook.
Okay, but Wick's a moron. Why Wick didn't even read his fucking contract? Why would we assume that anything he says has any value?
Why would you assume the guy we're talking about is not telling the truth?
Wick?
And yeah,
because he hasn't read his own contract. I don't think he's read his own contract. I don't think he has any idea what's even in his NDA.
Okay, fine. So Connor says he's getting paid because
Hey, Grim, shouldn't you be at Marx's winter school?
he gives them advice.
What are you
on the
watching me
opposition.
for?
Sure.
Is he getting paid for his advice?
Well, I think the argument was actually that the justification for including a conservative would be that he has advice on the opposition, not that he's being paid specifically for advice on the opposition.
Oh, fuck, man, that sucks. I'm sorry.
Seems to be politically at odds with the
So he's not getting paid for his participation at the meeting. It's for something else.
No, he's being paid for his participation at the meeting.
No, he's being paid for
his attendance and participation. You're correct.
No.
But his attendance,
You're attending.
I got COVID in December, man. It sucks.
Is what he's being paid for on paper. If he contributes there,
This is you saying this is above board right now.
It is above board. It's not
So
required.
how many of your jobs have you?
Hopefully some of it will be
gotten paid for
recorded.
something that's
I'm
not
looking
what
forward
you're
to
doing?
it.
So you get paid to say you're doing this, but you're actually doing a completely different job. That's what they're paying for you for, and it's above board to be like, we pay him to wash the vehicles, but actually we pay you to deliver the pizzas.
Well, no, they involve them because they do things for them, but the justification for their pay, like the mechanism by which they justify paying, is attendance at the meetings.
So when somebody says, like Connor, I'm getting paid because of the value I bring to the meeting, that's a lie.
No, it's not a lie.
So they're getting paid for the value at the meeting, their input. They're not getting paid for attending. They're getting paid for the consulting.
No,
you can describe the
better not risk it, Grim. It's not worth it.
So for example, we paid Connor to attend the meeting. Well, hang on. Why did you pay Connor? Well, we paid Connor to attend the meeting because he brings X, Y, and Z perspectives, and we think that'll make the meetings better. That doesn't make the first. No, but that doesn't make. You can call it a contribution, but that doesn't make the first sentence wrong.
Well, can I call it? If he doesn't contribute and he gets paid, what's he getting paid for?
Attending the meeting.
So it's not his contribution. It can't be he's getting paid to attend it.
They're being paid as consultants.
You're missing the distinction here. Okay, you can
100%,
ask the
Grim.
same question.
Get well soon.
Multiple things. Once again, why are you paying Connor to? Why is Connor being
rest
paid,
as much as you can? And I'm not kidding. I went into the field thinking. So I was like a week past COVID, past symptoms. Past testing positive, and I went into the field for the last day of field work last December, and I thought my head was going to explode, and I barely made it through the day. I'm so happy that my dig site was 15 minutes away from home, and then I just slept for the rest of the weekend. It was brutal. So this is like really the only cure for COVID is bed rest, right? Like Dr. Hibbert said about the Osaka flu in The Simpsons. You gotta rest. You gotta stay in bed. Don't do anything. Watch bullshit Twitch streamers.
Because that's the condition of getting paid as per his contract. Okay, well, why are you paying Connor as opposed to someone else to attend the meetings?
I just started watching
Connor to attend the meetings. We reached out.
Anyway, whatever. This is boring. I just started watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've never seen the show before, and so I just got through the first season. Holy shit! Or sorry, second season. Where has the show been my whole life? It's so good.
To him because he has perspectives that we want to inflect what we do. God knows why. I disagree with that, but
based on what you just said,
yes.
If he attends the meeting and doesn't speak, and he stops doing content altogether, he still gets paid.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So he doesn't have to say a word. He just clicks into a meeting and he gets free money from a political organization. And the question is, what's the problem?
Well, the problem.
If that's all the
problem is that
there's nothing left to do.
Well, the problem is it's a waste of funds, right?
No, it's more than that. Why are they lying to you?
In Connor's case,
why are they lying to you if it's a waste of funds?
What's the lie? You got to be careful with this. If you're gonna accuse people of lying specifically, you need to have like these specific thing that they say.
Now, it's funny that the rest of the community doesn't really need that standard, but I don't care about that. So Connor said both he gets paid as a consultant, not for his content. He gets paid for the contribution that he gives to the meetings. And he justified Wick's contribution when specifically asked why Wick gets paid. You said, why Wick? And he said, because he contributes to the meeting.
Yeah.
But you're saying if he doesn't contribute to the meeting and he doesn't do content, they're going to pay him.
Well, he didn't say that's why Wick. I don't think he really had a good why for Wick. But he said after the fact, when I asked him, does Wick contribute to the meetings? He said he does. But that wasn't given as part of justifying his.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could tackle that one
that was just
with a clear
satisfying
head.
my curiosity about what happened at the meetings while he was there.
So
right now I'm reading. Right now I'm in the middle of Trotsky's 1905, and I'm almost done. China from Permanent Revolution to Counter Revolution, and I'm reading right now. I'm reading also Permanent Revolution in Latin America. That's my my 3 reading groups that I'm involved in. I just want more, but also like I want to produce more content too. It's just while also working full time, while also taking care of a sick elderly mother and a house full of rabbits. If you consider reading some non-fiction, yeah, right.
We're at an impasse because what you're saying is the same answer in different ways, just to make sure you don't have to face the point.
Face what point?
Scenario that.
I mean, that goes without saying.
People quit doing content and didn't speak in the meeting. You're saying they'd all still get paid, and you're saying that makes sense.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, are you under the impression that I, who have been actively dissing and challenging PV members, annoying them for no reason, apparently on Twitter, are you suggesting that I have a vested interest in covering their asses?
I am suggesting that you are currently justifying that it is above board.
It is above board. There's nothing illegal. There's
That
nothing. There's
streamers
nothing.
are lying.
There's nothing
about-
illegal about paying someone to do nothing. There's nothing illegal about paying a lazy
I didn't
contractor.
say it was illegal. I said normal and above board.
It is normal and above board. I'm sorry to say it.
Okay, just so you're on the record saying it's normal and above board for.
It's abnormally.
political
It's
organizations-
abnormally. It is abnormally stupid to pay the people they are paying, but it is normal and above board in its form.
So when in their agreements, it's my understanding that, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong because I don't have the agreement.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding PV, and I don't know if it's do they work for the LLC or the PAC?
I don't know. I would assume the LLC, but I have no idea.
Okay, so why would you were talking about donors giving money and paying WIC.
Well,
If
the
it's
reason
the
why I
LLC
would assume the LLC is because, like I said,
Yeah, it's all legal, guys. Who cares if people are getting paid in secret to coordinate their messaging? It's totally, it's fine.
So where's the money for the LLC coming from?
I don't know.
So it's not about the PAC isn't the one funding this. It's some other organization where we can't track the money when they have a PAC.
I mean, presumably there is a way to track the money, but I have no idea. I haven't looked into it. But that's a different question, though. Now we're not talking about like why are they justifying paying these people or what are they paying them for? And
Well, I mean, I asked.
about that.
You
Now
didn't
we're
pass
talking
the
about
simple,
what
easy
they're paying
one.
them with. What's
You
that?
really didn't pass the simple easy one. Like
The simple easy what? What are you
Yeah, I
talking
mean, you're saying it is normal. I want to find somebody who says it is normal and above board for a political organization to pay people to do nothing.
Super normal, actually.
Then how come everybody in the community isn't out getting that money?
Because they didn't offer everybody the money. They offered people who wanted
Well, but
to.
I mean, they could just go out and
They offered people money who were friendly to Woo and to bigger
But if
people
it's
in the
normal,
org.
there's like these should be everywhere, right? Like,
Well, no,
I
just
should be able
because.
to call a
Hang
bunch
on.
of organizations
Just because.
and ask for free money.
Well, no, because you have no value to them, right? Like you. So there's different ways
Money
to
is
have.
free money.
There's different.
If there's a value,
But it's
free.
not. But it's not endless. They have a budget, so they're not giving money to everyone. They're picking and choosing based on who
So if
they
they-
like for various reasons.
If they don't speak at the meeting and they don't do content, what value do they bring to the table?
Anyway, this is what I was doing this week.
Presumably nothing. But what the hell does that have to do with you?
By the way.
Okay, so right now, bringing no value to the table, it's normal and above board to get paid for that. Okay, like I don't know what else to do.
Unless something illegal is going on, that makes
There's
it
me
like
right in the middle.
mismanaged and
I
stupid
got my
and it's a waste
flag
of
there.
funds.
So
if you want to critique them as I do, my critique of them is that
You know, do you think they'll hire me?
for like a progressive victory and whatnot, but they're making decisions that seem to be
I
more.
wore my
aggressive
steel-toe
towards
boots, my
inflating
reflective
advantage of
jacket, because
people
this is a
involved in
workers'
actually, like,
movement.
helping
Well, do you know why?
politics
My
in that way.
buddy's holding my
You know why
sign.
that is?
No,
That's
enlighten
because
me.
that's the mission of the owner.
Is it? Well, what
The
a
stated
bastard.
mission of the owner.
Yeah.
The stated mission of the owner. He thinks he's Luffy. I'm not
This
fucking
is
around
Frozen?
with you. The guy said,
It's Frozen.
If you look at One Piece, then there's people on the outside fringes. On one side,
It
you
looks-
have the
it
bad
looks
people like
bad.
Steve Bannon, who, if you look, and I'm just saying what he said, if you look at
If they're-
Gamergate and you look at Charlottesville and you look at all these events,
Not every week, no. Wednesday night was a last minute thing in response to the bombing of Rafah. There's a massive one in Toronto that's happening this weekend. At unfortunately, I won't have time to go to. But yeah, it's another big one, like all hands on deck, big one in Toronto. And I know I'll have comrades there be attending. But yeah, so like whenever I don't have time to like, do theory, it's usually because I'm actually out on the streets and hanging out with my partner who works her ass off. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes she joins me and it's nice. And but yeah, it's oh, the sign that Buddy was holding here. You can't really see it in this photo, but it says any nation that a nation can never be free if it oppresses other nations. And that's a call for the world working class to break free from the shackles of racism, to break with imperialism, to break with Zionism, and join their Palestinian brothers and sisters in overthrowing the ruling class who stokes these conflicts. Because as long as they're oppressing other people, we are never free. We cannot be free. Because they do it they can do it to them, and they can do it to us if we let it happen to them. An attack on one is an attack on all, essentially, is what it's saying. And that's a quote by Lenin. And so the idea was to get people to respond to that poster or the slogan. Slogans are very important in rallies like this. My slogan at the pro-trans rally was "Workers of the world unite against hate." And I got a few people that are like, "That's an awesome slogan." And you're like, "Yeah, this is what it means." And I hand them a leaflet about what it's going to take to genuinely build a world that's safe for trans people. And so you don't start off with, as Marx once said, or as Lenin once said, "A nation that oppresses other nations can never be free." You just say what Lenin said, because people respond to, will respond to the slogans, right? And then you tell them, "Oh, by the way, this was a guy named Lenin. He's pretty cool. You should check him out." Okay, so back to it. So the PAC only has like 120,000 as declarations, but the founder says they got less than 500,000 from a foundation to start, and they've had large fundraisers with Vouch and Destiny. Riverboat Jack raised 2,600 in a single stream. Fuck knows what's going on with the money because it's filtered through a limited liability corporation, and they don't have to open their books. Yeah, of course. Lenin, or Lenin as they call him in Russia. F-Bombs got into this whole PV thing in part because Wick was saying a year ago the Nazis should be allowed to do anti-Semitic shit outside of a Jewish temple, and now he says Hamas supporters gotta shut up. Funny how money can change people's principled stances on free speech. Interesting. TPS cops with Israeli patches, reality just making the subtext into text. I know, right? Like how much obvious. Yeah, we'll get into that after this whole debacle nonsense. I've been going for an hour and a half now. We will cover it's so fucking stupid. Protesters last weekend walked past Mount Sinai Hospital. They are now claiming was a Jewish hospital. Here's Spider-Man holding a Palestinian flag that's causing people to faint, literally shitting themselves. And so now they're saying that this crowd was anti-Semitic because they targeted a Jewish hospital. I am waiting for the day that they accidentally say something racist. Like, I thought it'd be so fucking funny if, like, because, like, in Hamilton, we walked down the main street that's, like, nothing but banks. And I'm waiting for someone to be like, I can't believe these protesters targeted this Jewish-owned bank. Oh, wait a minute. That sounds really bad when you say it out loud. Wait, are you the one saying Jews are controlling the banks? What? No, I'm just saying. I love being called an anti-Semite by the motherfuckers who were plotting a Waffen SS member 5 months ago, right? Yeah, but he's Ukrainian, and that was different. And see, there's a gray area there when it comes to Waffen SS members. We should offer critical... Oh, there he is, Yaroslav Honka. Here's a blank check, Mr. Honka. Whoops. Ah, shit. Did I lose it? Oh, fuck me. Did anybody see what was I at? 3340?
On the opposition. Not that he's being paid specifically for advice on the opposition. That's just to justify having somebody who seems to be politically at odds with the.
So he's not getting paid for his participation at the meeting. It's for something else.
No, he's being paid for his participation at the meeting.
No, he's being paid for
attendance. His attendance and participation. You're correct.
No.
But his attendance.
You're attending.
But his attendance at the meeting is what he's being paid for on paper. If he contributes there,
this is you saying this is above board right now.
It is above board. It's not required.
So how many of your jobs have you like gotten paid for something that's not what you're doing? So you get paid to say you're doing this, but you're actually doing a completely different job. That's what they're paying for you for, and it's above board to be like, we pay him to wash the vehicles, but actually we pay you to deliver the pizzas.
Oh, okay, I already heard this, so we're actually 10 minutes ahead. Sorry, guys.
secretly ingratiates himself by, like, whether it's communicating with them or giving them a little bit of money. If you remember 3 months ago, I said what happens is these people come into communities and then they find
no,
people.
I know, but this is obvious. Like this is
So this is what the
what's the
owner
problem?
of Progressive.
I understand, but what is the problem?
I mean, it's not a problem. It's just this is what he wants. He wants to take advantage of.
He wants to. This is what I'm
to
hearing.
grow Progressive Victory, and no matter who it hurts.
I understand.
Okay, so does F-bombs have a problem? Because like F-bombs is really fixated on the above board stuff, but like I've never once heard F-bombs say this is all to support the genocidal Democratic Party and to support imperialism. Like I haven't heard F-bombs actually make that connection yet. Does he get there eventually, or is he just pissed off about Progressive Victory paying streamers to not do anything? F-bombs hates Wick and Brianna Wu, but he's a vote blue guy. Oh, come on. Fuck, you're so close, bro. So he hates Wick and Wu for like completely different reasons. Fuck, man. Like, whatever. You're doing the right thing for the wrong reason. You should be calling out Progressive Victory for paying streamers to do bullshit, to create content, to defend the fucking genociders.
So
gets fucked. That's all he wants.
Okay, so this is what I'm hearing. Okay. Brainiac decides, hey, this form of organizing worked for some organizations that seem to have made big waves.
Should make a pro-Democrat stream. Set up a channel called Weed Lord Boner Hitler 420, and just talk about how great the Democrats are. Build up an audience. He's an anti-Zionist Jewish guy. He's very close to the truth, but he's got long-ass streams where he gets mad about January 6th and Trump. Why would you get mad about January 6th? It's like, just enjoy the fact that it was the funniest thing to happen in the last 5 years. The fact that, like, 4 mega hogs died of heart attacks. I will concede the one accidentally tasering themselves in the balls, that didn't happen as desperately as I needed that to happen. It was liberal 9/11. It's civic religion is what it is. These people don't worship Jesus; they worship America. And you desecrated this holy temple by taking a giant dump on Nancy Pelosi's desk. That is objectively so fucking hilarious. How do you be mad about that?
Charlottesville and Steve Bannon, whatever. We should emulate that. I don't see what the problem is.
Like there should be weekly riots. There should be weekly January 6ths for healthcare. Because you guys don't have healthcare. It's insane.
Unless they're doing something specifically unethical. That seems smart to me. The problem is they can't execute it because they don't know what they're doing. But like the principle of like infiltrating communities and building networks and convincing people, that's intelligent. I don't have a problem with that.
Let's go down that road. They're incompetent and they don't know what they're doing. We both completely agree on that.
Okay.
So that being the case, streamers are getting paid right now.
Yeah.
Potentially they could get paid to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Some of those people believe they actually have like a political career now.
Okay.
What happens when they stop getting paid now that they've went on this whole tailspin of burning all their bridges?
I don't know. It's their problem.
That is a problem, though, isn't it?
It's not my problem. If they burnt all of their bridges after they signed a contract, that's a stupid decision. But
right,
their right to do so.
Okay.
Why does this? I mean, I'm confused. What is the problem exactly?
Well, the fact is, all these people that are doing this, whether they're doing it on purpose and not thinking about what's going to happen,
who's burnt all their bridges?
If they were looking at this like they won the lotto,
yeah,
nothing would be wrong. But there's a number of these
they would be very foolish. But who among them has burnt all of their bridges? What are we talking about?
I mean, do you think Wick's channel is suffering from this?
He's been doing actually pretty well for the last couple of days. He has regular Destiny appearances. Wick's channel suffering is a consequence of his lack of charisma and talent. It has nothing to do with him burning bridges.
Okay. That is not wrong.
Like he's got big bridges. He has big people come on. Just nobody likes him.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. That's a nuance I didn't quite have. That's a fair parsing of that. I think that's about it. Like, I wanted to know if I said that a plurality of the community that didn't sign up with Progressive Victory was aware that people had signed up for Progressive Victory. If that, when I say by November there was a plurality, would I be wrong?
I'm not sure I understand. Like a plurality of people who had signed up with Progressive Victory?
No, that didn't sign up, but knew people had signed up and were doing it.
I would expect so.
Okay, so this is Guy Cohen, the typecast loser from the Pretty Fly for a White Guy video, aka I'm Really Important, denying genocide in the most despicable way imaginable. So this is one of those guys. This is someone getting paid, by the way, by Progressive Victory.
Any comment on the genocide in Gaza? Bombing civilians?
What?
Any comment on the genocide in Gaza?
You don't give a shit about working class people. Thank you, President Biden. Oh, look, the stock market's doing great. Awesome. Yeah, this helps me pay my medical bills and feed my family when some billionaires have a great quarter. They can use those big profits to lobby to keep our wages lower. Yay. Exactly. Yeah. These are the ass clowns that are getting paid. Yeah, when you don't give a single shit about working class people. Oh my god, look at all this shit behind him. He's got a Biden-Harris like card poster thing. The worst people. Infiltrating community. Yeah, so he was at the PV event, and when I asked him how much he got paid, he said, "I'm not telling you." Oh yeah, I love that you don't give a shit. You just go harass these people. Excellent.
Okay.
You're doing the Lord's work.
So
Why does that matter though?
Well, there were people without NDAs that were not addressing the rumors when they came up either. They were saying.
But why would they? Why would they have a reason to? What rumors? What are you talking about?
I mean, I don't have a specific. It's not important to.
Well, it's important to me. What rumors are they not? Were they keeping to themselves? I don't understand.
Oh, well, I remember all the way back in December when I spoke to Kid and I explained all this, and he repeated it, but then called it a conspiracy in the same way he called it a conspiracy.
Okay, but what?
A few days ago, and the way he called it a conspiracy after me showing him not disclosing to his community.
Okay, but
that
what
he
is
knows
he?
all these
What is
other
he
people are
calling? What is he calling a conspiracy?
I've got a list. I'm going to
What's he
harass
calling a
every single one of
conspiracy?
them.
Oh, he's calling that I believe this.
Do me a favor, Resist White. I don't have time to do this, but if you do, can you please clip those segments where they get angry at you and send them my way, because it'd be really fucking funny. I just spent 6 hours lying in bed awake. In about an hour, I have to leave for work. The stream needs to replenish my energy. All right, Cat Spotter. Yeah, as tonight's title is saying, there's Progressive Victory is a DNC super PAC that is paying. They are paying Twitch streamers to either not produce content, or they're producing pro Biden content to get you to vote for the genocides. And it's sickening, and honestly, it should be a bigger scandal. But there's a shitload of streamers that are on the dole getting paid by the DNC. So yeah, that should replenish your. Oh, that should not. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So yeah, my job is to dunk on them tonight and expose them for the leftist frauds that they are. You want to see Riverboat Jack get mad and tell you how Marx would vote? No, I don't know if I can handle that, Resist White, but please, by all means, send it. That would be pretty funny. Riverboat Jack is not a Marxist, by the way. She's a socialist libertarian, same as Vaush. That's not replenishing my energy. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, I'm gonna pull the Keffel's strategy and just shit on every leftist streamer like I should have been. I thought I could grow the channel maybe by like being friendly and kind of keeping my head down, but like that's not really working. I think the genocide in Palestine is really drawing a line in the sand. And if you take money and produce content for these people, I have no respect for you. If you take money like Wick is and don't produce a second of content and just sit in the meetings and take their money, that is at least taking money away from the pack that might otherwise go to some other dipshit streamer. So by inaction, you're actually doing a public service. The Dutch courts ordered the Dutch government to stop sending weapons to Israel. Not all is bad in the world. That's good news. Absolutely, that's good news. Yeah, you know what? I try to have some. Here we have an article. The AFL-CIO ceasefire shows power of the movement for Palestine. So the labor movement is slowly awakening. Who's the audience for this stuff anyway? Small sample size. When my grade 10 students told me Twitch is cringe. What? Yeah, they're all on TikTok now, which is also a huge problem. TikTok is the way it goes right now. Twitch is cringe, really. Shit tons of people are still on Twitch. When I signed up for Twitch, there were 600 million users on Twitch. That's like 7% of the world. Unfortunately, Wick isn't taking money for nothing. He hosted a panel on abortion for Progressive Victory, and both sides of the debate are taking the Progressive Victory payments. Fuck. So that's his purpose then. So he doesn't have to produce content himself. He just has people come on his stream in a panel, and then they do all the talking. That's still pretty funny. But yeah, so so he acts as a hub to get these clowns together and pretend to debate about abortion. It's like, sorry, we lost the debate. You lost abortion. I'm sorry, you cannot run on abortion now. You fuckers let it go because you refused to stop fucking organizing for the Democratic Party. Non-smoker said something that really resonated with me. He thought the kids were really into giving money and guns to Nazis and Zionists. But it's not the kids. It's these losers getting paid to say this shit. Well, yeah, non-smoker's a teacher, too. Really interested to see... That's too bad. He's taking selfies with, like, Caleb Maupin, and he's impressed by the energy that Haas brings to the... Oh, you know what, Caspotter? I do have something for you. Speaking of the right-wing, Twitch poll is now not representative of the younger generation. Interesting. I do have something that might perk you up. Is me and some comrades are launching a podcast soon, probably next month. And I slapped together like an intro for it of what it might sound like. So let me scroll up. So listen to this and tell me this doesn't get you pumped up. Grim, you also need to listen to this. Listening to the left. Nope, I'm not going to reveal the title. Not yet. You got to wait. But anyway, so that's going to be a podcast. Yes, it's real. Jackson Hinkle went on Alex Jones to talk about how the world is run by Trotskyists and and how Alex Jones said he wished Stalin got every last one of them, and Jackson Hinkle has confirmed that the world is run by Trotskyists. Jackson Hinkle then talks about how he is a Christian and how the American Revolution will be Christian based, and how we need to get rid of these evil Jewish globalists like George Soros controlling everything. Fuck off. So kind of launching a podcast that's going to be I pitched it as like knowledge fight of mega communism, basically. So we're gonna have episodes that gets into Jackson Hinkle, Haas, Caleb Maupin, all of these deeply unserious grifter clowns who in my opinion give Marxist Leninism a bad name. And you know, our stance is like, just because like we disagree on certain aspects of Marxism with Marxist Leninists, but I have no doubt in my mind there are millions of very serious and very, very good Marxist Leninist comrades who either never heard of or don't care about the differences between Trotskyists and Stalinists. That's mostly, in my experience, that has been mostly an online thing. I have had beers with Marxist Leninists and Maoists in my city, and we've had a really great time, and I would be proud to call these guys my comrades. And so that's not who we're going after, really. Like, we'll definitely have our critiques on Stalinism. Marxist historian Doug Green is going to be a regular appearance, if not one of the main hosts, where we're just going to nerd out and geek out about history for an hour, and then so it's going to be a little bit more laid back. It's not going to be historical lectures. It's just mostly there'll be lots of history and theory involved in it, but also like it's going to be way more laid back. Yeah, we're gonna get into like LaRouche and Burnham, former Trot as well. Christopher Hitchens, you know, the Trot to Fash pipeline, all that sort of good stuff. Midwestern Marks, that's another one that we have to that we'll be going after. Although I find them, they're bad, but they're far less offensive than the big three. Me and Doug both have the honor of being blocked by Caleb Maupin on Twitter, so I can't really see what he's doing. Dugan, yep. Oh, you can talk about that at length. Interesting. Yeah, send me your notes on Dugan. I'd be interested in that. I know Doug Green is well read on Dugan as well. Oh, what passes for theoretical basis for MAGA communism is taken from Burnham and LaRouche, both former Trots. I should find Haas's stream and call him a Trot for following LaRouche. That'd be so funny. You're blocked by Chairman Maupin? Yes. Actually, I can probably just I don't want to accidentally see any spanking videos. Yeah, see, he doesn't come up. What the fuck? This can't be him. 123 followers? That's not him. That's him. The verified blue check. Maupin hater. Anyway, I said I was gonna print this out and frame it. But we'll have more casual episodes too. We're going to talk about you've heard of the Facebook page Mean Trots. These are the guys that run Mean Trots. So we're going to have a whole episode on Mean Girls and how Mean Girls is actually apparently it's a perfect representative of about leftist discourse and splits and gossip. Apparently it's like a direct parallel. It's pretty funny. Who is Malima? Oh yeah, Julie. Yeah, that's right. No, I need to read more about these folks. That's so not true. Are you even online?
This is bigger than streamers. That it's not illegal for streamers to get paid to go to a free meeting.
What's the bigger dimension to this?
Well, the benefit to the PAC and why they're doing it.
Do you mean the benefit to the PAC's like employees and management? Like I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
like, yeah, obviously, like there's always a conflict of interest in any political organ.
We'll go for a few more minutes of this, but like I'm just F-bombs really needs to stop edging and actually come out against the Democratic Party. That would be nice, but I don't think he's going to do it. But he did do a good job exposing this. It just didn't take it to its logical conclusion. Yeah, apparently there's a bunch of right-wingers that are getting involved in this as well, which is bizarre. Fabian Liberty. That's really surprising. They're a bunch of libertarians. He's hoping they pay him and he wishes they'd done more to support the ministry and everything they can to try and argue that working with leftist PACs and getting paid is principled conservatism. Did you know he wants to genocide the whites? We, the South African Bolsheviks. Oh, man, that's based. I wonder what Libcom has to say about it. Huh. IDOM from 2014. So this article is 10 years old. The emergence of the EFF to the left of the ANC is a clear manifestation of the radicalization taking place in South African society. No other opposition party in the last 2 decades has made such a sudden and dramatic entrance into the political arena. But the emergence of the EFF necessitates a closer look at the party and some of its leading policy positions. Describes itself as a radical, leftist, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist movement with an internationalist outlook. Perfect. Anchored by popular grassroots formation and struggle. It also states it draws inspiration from the broad Marxist-Leninist tradition and Fanonian schools of thought in their analysis of the state, imperialism, culture, and class contradictions in every society. Fanon was a radical left-wing writer who had influence on many anti-imperialist activists throughout the former colonial world, including in particular South Africa. Yes, I was in a reading group reading Wretched of the Earth, but I had to drop out because I just didn't have time. 3 reading groups is plenty, plus a stream, plus now a podcast. Party bases itself on what it calls 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars for economic freedom in our lifetime: expropriation of South Africa's land without compensation or for equal redistribution and use, nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy without compensation. Oh my God, this guy's after my own heart. Building state and government capacity, which will lead to the abolishment of tenders, free quality education, healthcare, houses, and sanitation. Massive protective industrial development to create millions of sustainable jobs, including the introduction of minimum wages in order to close the wage gap between the rich and the poor, close the apartheid wage gap, and promote rapid career paths for Africans in the workplace. Massive development of the African economy and advocating for a move from reconciliation to justice in the entire continent. Open, accountable, corrupt-free government and society without fear of victimization by state agencies. To fully understand the emergence of the EFF and their radical approach in some of their foremost policies, it's necessary to look at the context in which it had emerged. These guys sound fucking awesome. And I think, thank you. I think when you have the correct program, people aren't going to care what you call yourself, right? And to my Trotskyists in the chat, this is why it's important we have the correct program that will win people over, and it seems including Marxist-Leninists. This term is generally, so this is from their website, I guess. Where's this from? This term is generally used to describe what are Marxism, Leninism, and Trotskyism. This term is generally used to describe what are considered revolutionary Marxists, those who see that the present system must be replaced by a new one, as opposed to reformists, who believe that the capitalist system can be made kinder and gentler, which is not possible. Leninism is really nothing more than the extension of Marx's ideas. He said, when he said expropriation without compensation, like finally someone's saying it, right? Leninism is really nothing more than the extension of Marx's ideas into the age of imperialism. What the hell? Who wrote this? Because this is basically like these are the exact phrases that I have used. The age of the domination of finance, capital, and monopolies. Cole Whiskey, thank you for the follow. Conscript reporting. But there's still some confusion as far as Marxism-Leninism goes. There are those who follow Stalin, Mao, or Trotsky. Stalin and Mao were not Marxist. They were actually quite anti-Marxist in that they led regimes based not on democratic control of the state by the workers, but rather based on totalitarian control by an elite stratum of bureaucrats who were a parasite on the worker state. Trotskyism were those who followed Leon Trotsky, who led the opposition to Stalin's reactionary policies after Lenin's death in 1924. Was actually a continuation of Marxism and Leninism, but many people still use the word Trotskyism to distinguish themselves from the Stalinists. Personally, I am in agreement with Trotsky and see him as the continuer of Marxism-Leninism, but due to the negative connotations associated with Trotskyism, due to the fanatical and often ultra-left tactics and policies of many of his followers and the annoying organizations, I am content to stick with calling myself a Marxist-Leninist, as Trotsky's ideas are an extension of that. Among Trotsky's most important contributions to Marxist theory are his scientific analysis of the nature of Stalinism and his ideas of the permanent revolution, especially as regards the colonial world. Oh my God, I'm going to fucking gush. Are you kidding me right now? How did I not know about this? So, South African government massacring striking mine workers in 2011 was a major event that preceded their split with the ANC. Yeah, that tends to radicalize people, when the state crushes striking workers. All right, the link to EFF Online doesn't work. I'm a Marxist and Leninist, but not a Marxist-Leninist kind of guy. Like, I feel like that's my exact words that I have used for years. Man, that's really exciting, for real.
Workers
Yo, Mark's daddy, thank you.
unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains.
That's right. Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your change. Thank you so much. 13 months. Great to have you back. Anyway, yeah, when I first learned about workers' control, was that Star Trek clip real? Yes. Do you want to see the full context? Could probably watch the full context. I think I'm done with Progressive Victory. Let's talk about stuff that gets us energized, right? As Caspotter was requesting. Speaking of that episode of Star Trek, I'm actively working on building a union at work. Fuck yeah, let's go. I swear to God, this is the only leftist right here. This is the only leftist Twitch chat that actually has people who are in a union or are on the way to building a union or have built a union themselves, right? I didn't, this sweater didn't come from nowhere, right? We're the first unionized archaeologists in North America, and I lost a lot of friends over this campaign, but fuck them. Cry all the way to the free dentist, bitches.
Labor. Where's wages? Wages are here.
So I love in Star Trek that you can't just have one tablet with multiple tabs. You have to have multiple tablets juggling. And so he's reading labor, and then he reaches for a thing that says wages. Well, Star Trek will also feature prominently on our podcast, and we could probably even get Will, the Star Trek communist, to come on. And this is the other, this is goosebumps every single time. He was more than a hero. He was a union man. Here in the U.S., the restaurants just don't have to pay you since we make tips, right? And the minimum wage for waiters in the U.S. is like, was it like $2.63 an hour or something like that? Like, it's fucking nuts. It's insane how bad it is. Look at this bunny. He's just chilling. It's $9 an hour here in Florida, and that's only because we voted for it. Right on. And it probably took like a mass fucking campaign to get people to vote for it. Anyway, the whole episode is, man, gets me every time. It's this is for a show written in the 90s. It's insane how accurate it is. You know? Just watch the episode. Excuse me, it hasn't always been woke. See, I've heard a lot of when the skirts were shorter, right wingers said they went woke at some point, probably when they stopped being children. I've also heard baby leftists and liberals complain that because like a lot of folks don't understand character development and context, apparently like one of the earliest episodes was I think it was Captain Pike saying like, I still don't think a woman belongs on the bridge, and he was referring to Uhura. But the point is, there was this black woman there, you know, who wasn't a servant, and like he had to work with her. He may not have liked it, but tough fucking shit. And I think a lot of leftists like miss that, and eventually they share the first interracial on-screen kiss which again, they also tried to cancel now because they say it was a forced kiss and wasn't really consensual. So a lot of like people don't understand, like, the context at the time was like this blew people's fucking minds, this show. And they don't understand how important it was. Martin Luther King talked Nichelle Nichols into staying on the show even when she wanted to quit, because Martin Luther King was like, you have no idea how important your role is. So yeah, there's like, how about a little bit of cultural context would be nice. But no, everything has to be perfect. Otherwise it gets canceled. You know, it's perfect. You know what satisfies the liberal fucking wet dream is Stacey Abrams as president of Earth in Discovery. But then you know what they showed in TNG? They showed men wearing skirts in like the first couple seasons. Like the subtext, like, it wasn't exactly subtle when they dealt with themes of racism in the 1960s. The whole point of Trek was to challenge our cultural norms. Leftist purity test exactly why a true left-leaning movement will never pick up in the West. Yeah, maybe. You could be right. That's why Mark's daddy, you have to remember, is our job. This is what I always say, to remind myself. Our job isn't to unite the left, right? As Marxists, our job is to unite the working class. And that's why you'll never find these leftist purity shitheads talking about unions and, you know, actually talking to workers on the ground. There was another DS9 episode. I don't quite remember. It talked a hell of a lot about revolutionary stuff. Like, even Lower Decks acknowledged that the Cardassians were fascists, and fighting fascism was a full-time job. It was so good. I gotta be careful because, like, I get random nudes in my fucking Twitter feed. Yeah, Navalny got probably got murked in Russia. Described him as the opposition leader by the bourgeois propagandists in the British press. Oh, not pictured as the apparently deceased. That's not him. Liberals saying rest in power for Navalny. Are you fucking out of your minds? Navalny called Muslims fucking cockroaches. But because he wanted to be more friendly with the West and open up relations with the West, is why liberals are like fucking crying about him now. Man, never change, liberals. Scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. The time travel one with Ben as a hero. Oh yes, that's the one. Yeah, it takes place it actually takes place in 2024 with massive homeless encampments everywhere and no jobs. The Russian Communist Party is cheering on the invasion of Ukraine, yeah. And the communists that got kicked out of the party got kicked out because they opposed the invasion of Ukraine. When they said, actually, the main enemy is at home and we should be working to overthrow Putin, not cheering on our national bourgeoisie. And I feel the same way. We should also be working to overthrow our imperialist overlords and dismantling NATO rather than cheering on and arming fucking Nazis in Eastern Europe, because when is that ever, funding and arming and training right-wing extreme reactionaries, when is that ever blown back in our faces? Late stage capitalism is the starting point. None of the protections we have in the West, as little as they are, were developed there. I'm just going through this article. Anyway, it was ultimately it was the INP's article on democratic workers' control and the transition is what ultimately really got me to jump away from leftism and into Marxism. Like, that's when I became a Marxist, was when I read that one article. Workers' democracy. What's the fuck is it called now? Workers' Control and Nationalization, 2006. If I could recommend one article from the IMT, yeah, honestly, it's this one. Like, if I had to, like, I this article's a masterpiece, and like, we're going through, myself and some comrades are going through, like, what are some of the best elements of like different organizations. And as much as we clown on them, the SCP apparently published a really good book on Trotsky. That was apparently really good. Did you see the Cenk? No, I did not see the Cenk ad. Can you link it? The government sent 200 million of weapons via the USA and Russia, put sanctions on our banana and flour export, and we're going to lose 1.2 billion this year. The small banana farmers are already going bust. Our president is from the largest banana plantation owning family. Oh my God. Cenk Uygur ad. Let's see it.
Joining us now is Cenk Uygur, who is still running in the Democratic primary.
TYT, they're not doing so good right now, are they? Oh my God, I think I saw snippets of this. Yeah, TYT, they're bleeding money like crazy, aren't they? Like, people just aren't buying it anymore.
We get all the sandwich stuff for the kids' lunch. They don't like turkey anymore.
Yeah, I know.
What about the bananas?
Yeah, I got them too. But, honey.
What?
You're gonna have to put those eggs back.
They don't like eggs anymore?
No, they like eggs, but we have to set that $7 aside. For killing Palestinians?
What? I mean, don't we give Israel $4 billion a year anyways?
Yeah, and now we're giving them another $14 billion. Do you know how much that is per American taxpayer?
No.
It's like $85 per person. Apparently it's costing us a lot of money to drop bombs on Gaza.
It's terrible. Yeah. Don't they get universal health care too?
Yeah, they do. We're paying for that too, probably. Might as well put the bananas back.
Why the do we have to pay for all of this?
Don't cuss at me.
I'm Cenk Uygur and I approve this message.
Oh, okay. What are you gonna do about it, Cenk? That is kind of weird. It's really bizarre. Yeah, that was weird. I feel like that's a conversation that I would have. Like, I will unironically have this conversation with my girlfriend in the grocery store. Ah, crap. Point's not wrong in the presentation. Yeah, it's just something weird about it. It's so off. Yank is such a fucking grift. Man told everyone to give money to Justice Dems so they could get people in Congress and then use must-pass legislation to force concessions like Medicare for all. But when the Justice Dems had the power, he fucking said, no, we can't do that. And Jimmy Dore wants it, so it must be bad. Yeah, the bad blood between Jimmy Dore and a lot of leftists, I think probably might have gotten in the way of that. That is something that I have come around on, and Jimmy Dore is a giant asshole, and I really, really can't stand him. But I think that was one thing that he was right on. I've come around on my position on force the vote, even though it's way in the distant past at this point. But the Republicans, since gaining back the House, have since shown what is possible by withholding your vote for speaker and forcing votes on certain things. So it turns out that it is actually an effective strategy. It was literally Jenk's plan in the first place. All I know is I will illegally immigrate to the U.S. before the election to illegally vote for Biden. Don't tell the Patriots. Just limit that by that. Oh, we're only 2.5 hours in. I got lots of time left. Oh, Kid Knockins live. H3H3 versus Keffels and Vaush. Oh yeah, Keffels is now running flank for Vaush. F-bombs and President Sunday. So that'll be juicy. Midwestern Marx is live. What's the real reason liberals were mad at Tucker Putin interview? Oh my god, who gives a fuck? Nice horse, my man. Anyway, yeah, you ask a libertarian socialist, what do you think of AOC, and their answer will be, I think it should be lowered. That's one of my favorite jokes. I love that joke. The Vouch shit is so fucking hilarious. Bad Empanada has been yelling about that dude for years and got vindicated this week. Yeah. I mean, I thought this was like, I thought everyone knew this, that Vouch was a renowned pervert. Vouch out to defending Milei as the lesser of two evils against the proto-tanky both. Yeah, I mean, class interests stick together, right? The libertarian part comes first.
A lot of emails already about the anti-Semitic speaking out in favor of, because that Mount Sinai, that's hollow ground there. Oh, yeah. And you and I were there when Rob was in there, so.
But every hospital is.
Yeah, they all.
It doesn't matter. Islamophobia or anti-Semitism, we have no place for any of that in Ontario. We all get along.
A lot of people are shocked that a pro-Palestinian protest was out front of Mount Sinai Hospital. You saw protesters there. They were yelling out things about intifada and to the river, to the sea, and all these kinds of very offensive things towards Jewish people. One of the most shocking incidents was one of the demonstrators actually got on top of a scaffold right in front of the hospital. Needless to say, people are upset everywhere in Ontario, including Premier Doug Ford.
Well, I think it's absolutely terrible. The federal government came out with a law that you cannot protest on hospitals. Folks, get some decency, have common sense. These hospitals are there to save lives. You know, Mount Sinai did everything they could to save my brother's life. He was in there, and they're an incredible hospital, along with all the hospitals around the province. They're there to help people. Do not break the law, because that's exactly what happened. You broke the law, and again, the federal government came out with a law saying you cannot protest in front of hospitals. But even without the law, you have to have an ounce of decency not to do this. I don't care what you're protesting. That doesn't matter. You want to protest, go to City Hall, come down to Queen's Park, jump up and down, do whatever you want. But don't prohibit people going into a hospital when they're in there saving people's lives, because you never know. You may be the next person in that hospital, and they'll be trying to save your life.
Yeah. Yeah, as if the protesters would actually block ambulances.
There was also pro-Hamas kind of messaging put on another Cafe Aroma last night as well.
Yeah, at this point, good.
Anti-Semitism, I've been writing about it for a lot of months, and it just doesn't seem to be going away. Is there something that the province can do about this?
It doesn't matter if it's Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. Folks, we have 120 nationalities that live here in Ontario. 200 languages are spoken. We pride ourselves around the world for everyone to come here and get along and live side by side and work side by side, no matter where you work. We need to live peacefully together.
Yep. Hospitals are sacred ground, guys. That's why we leveled every single one in Gaza. They walked past the hospital. So I'll show you guys, for those of you not in the Toronto area, I'll show you guys why they ended up at this hospital. U.S. consulate. Okay, so you can see here, this is the U.S. consulate. This is where the protest started. And then they make their way to Queen's Park, which is to the north. So this is here. This is where the provincial Capitol building basically is. So U.S. consulate, Queen's Park, right? They're connected. What's in the middle between those two? So this whole street, this whole University Avenue, downtown street was completely closed off for this demonstration, for tens of thousands of people to march. What do you think is on the way? Do you think that they seriously planned, oh, let's blockade this hospital? So yeah, they walked past the hospital, and now they're slandering these protesters by trying to say that, oh, they targeted this hospital. Fuck off. Get the fuck out of here. It is so disingenuous nonsense. Just look at a map. Sorry, the Israeli consulate? Well, where's that? Can't be too far. All of the protests that I attended started at that's pretty far out. That can't be right. Consulate Row is just to the north. Anyway, I was kind of joking with myself. It's like next they're gonna walk past some banks, and then all the media is gonna be like, I can't believe they're walking past these Jewish-owned banks. Anyway, well then I'm wrong. Then obviously the crowd was anti-Semitic and they deliberately targeted the hospital. I mean, that's the only other explanation. Started at Bloor and Young. So how'd they end up in front of the hospital then? Did they march to Queen's Park and then sort of disperse, and then a few people? So like a handful of people walked past Mount Sinai, because like it's not on the way. That's what I'm saying.
Toronto police are increasing their presence along Hospital Row after a pro-Palestinian protest outside of Mount Sinai Hospital. A crowd gathered outside the historically Jewish hospital last night, carrying signs and waving Palestinian flags.
Sure.
Several doctors have spoken out against the demonstration, saying places of healing should not be targeted. In a statement, police say interfering with the operations of a hospital is not acceptable. The Toronto Police Service is investigating several incidents that occurred in front of Mount Sinai Hospital and along the demonstration route. As we have said before, officers use their discretion during large crowd demonstrations, and even if arrests are not deemed safe to make at the time, investigations will continue and charges can be laid.
The march to the U.S. consul. There you go.
Premier Doug Ford was asked about the protests at an event.
That's a long-ass march.
I think it's absolutely terrible. The federal government came out with a law that you cannot protest on hospitals.
Shut
Do
the
not
fuck up.
Break the law.
Prime Minister Trudeau tweeted the demonstration at Mount Sinai Hospital yesterday was reprehensible. Hospitals are places for treatment and care, not protests and intimidation. I strongly condemn this display of anti-Semitism. In Toronto and across Canada, we stand with Jewish communities against this hate.
Anyway, bullshit. Absolutely nonsense. So here's what actually happened. So once again, bourgeois politicians and media are raising a hue and cry over pro-Palestinian protests. This time it's over a protest that supposedly took place outside of Toronto's Mount Sinai Hospital. Media have reported on Justin Trudeau's condemnation. There's only one problem. The story is made up. There's no depth that the ruling class won't stoop to smear the Palestinian solidarity movement and shield their ongoing support for mass murder. Also, this motherfucker's trying to privatize hospitals. Yeah, this is the guy that's slowly gutting our healthcare. Like, for-profit healthcare, that's perfectly sacred. That absolutely must be protected at all costs. But you're not allowed to walk in front of a building and wave a flag. With the noose of the Israeli army tightening around Rafah, emergency rallies have been organized worldwide. In Toronto, on the evening of February 12th, approximately 2,000 protesters gathered outside the Israeli consulate, chanting, "Stop the siege on Rafah now. Stop the bombing. Stop killing our children." The protest marched through the downtown, past the provincial legislature at Queen's Park, and down towards the U.S. consulate on University Avenue. During the march, a few scattered protesters climbed on surrounding structures to wave Palestinian flags. Most notably, one individual dressed up as Spider-Man, possibly the same Spider-Man known to frequent Yonge and Dundas Square. By the end of the day on February 13th, every political leader in Canada had posted their condemnation of the demonstration on X, based on an entirely fabricated story that the protests had targeted Mount Sinai Hospital, a hospital founded by the Jewish community 100 years ago. That happens to be a few blocks up the street from the U.S. consulate. Hospitals are places for treatment and care, not protests and intimidation, Justin Trudeau posted. This apparently does not apply to hospitals in Gaza, over half of which have been destroyed and the rest severely disabled. Trudeau is perfectly happy to support targeting of those hospitals, having authorized $28.5 million in new military exports to Israel since October 7th. Toronto's left mayor, Olivia Chow, responded saying a hospital is a sanctuary, a place of healing for all. Yesterday's actions at Mount Sinai Hospital, a hospital founded by Toronto's Jewish community, were unacceptable. What is acceptable to Chow is Toronto police assaulting protesters, as she recently did about an about-face on police funding, deciding to give Toronto Police Services all the money they want to crack down on demonstrations. Leader of the Ontario Liberals, Bonnie Crombie, that's a fake name. Went a step further, elaborating on the tale. I've been torn up by the accounts of protesters infiltrating Mount Sinai Hospital, intimidating Jewish patients and doctors, and threatening our already weakened healthcare system. This is an entirely fanciful claim. The idea that Mount Sinai Hospital only employs and serves Jewish people is itself bizarre. One might also ask which political party is responsible for the decades of cuts that left Ontario healthcare in its weakened state. It's the Federal leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, joined the chorus, posting, "Yesterday, the Mount Sinai Hospital was targeted because of its ties to the Jewish community in Toronto." I'm going to be extremely real with you guys. Toronto has one of the largest Jewish communities, diasporas, in the world outside of Israel. It might be second only to New York City. I'm not entirely sure. So chances are within a kilometer radius of any protests, there's going to be a Jewish-owned business or house or, a road where some Jews might live. There's a lot of fucking Jewish people, and they're going to find every excuse. That's why they've banned protesting on bridges. There is nothing acceptable to these people. There is no way to protest that is acceptable to the ruling class, because they will find any way to smear it. Have they even got an image of the protest stopping briefly outside the hospital or anything? I guess we should just ban pro-Palestinian protests entirely. Yes. So a couple of guys climbed a ledge and walked across it. But Spider-Man also climbed across several buildings. Here's the Eaton Center. That's just like a shopping mall. Here's a statue. And I believe this is probably the one in the middle here is probably the hospital. So like that's sort of his shtick, is he climbs on, like, I've seen him before too. Anywhere where there's infrastructure, like scaffolding, he will just climb around. He'll just climb about. See, there he is on a street sign. Is that street sign Jewish owned too? Oh yeah. So anyway, here's a bunch of doctors that are handcuffed to the ground with guns pointed at them. That's fine though. This is perfect. This isn't terrorism. This is terrorism. Fucking bullshit. Fucking nonsense. Complete morons. And I really wish we could bring back the R word to describe what we're seeing here. Something that does not describe, differently abled mentally folks. Yesterday, the Mount Sinai Hospital was targeted because of its ties to the Jewish community in Toronto. This is not okay. Hospitals are a place for healing, yada, yada, yada. Singh is just as milquetoast in his betrayal of the Palestine movement, a movement that used to have a home in the NDP, as he is with everything else. If it were true that 2,000 people descended on a hospital, that would be a little more than not okay. But Singh can rest assured, because that's not what happened, and he's simply spreading the same slanders of anti-Semitism that have been used to smear Palestinian solidarity from the beginning. What is okay to Singh is to continue to prop up a government that funds and covers for genocide. The rally that I was at on Wednesday, we shut down an intersection, and an ambulance had to get through. And what did we do? We created a massive part to get the ambulance through. Despite the fact that the replies to these posts are flooded with people who were at the protest setting the record straight, Canadian media has picked up the story with zero regard for facts. Media outlets have uniformly led with headlines denouncing the protests, and few so much as mentioned protest organizers' account of events. To paraphrase Trotsky, the bourgeois press tells the truth 90% of the time so that they can outright lie when they need to. When it comes to events surrounding Palestine, the press is quickly burning up its credibility with outright lies. That's really interesting. The bourgeois press tells the truth 90% of the time. This is why grifters like Jackson Hinkle and Alex Jones are so successful, because there are kernels of truth to a lot of the stuff that they say. The world is not run by Trotskyists. I wish it was. But like they say just enough to get people hooked and be like, yeah, you know what? Things aren't okay right now. How come the Jenk ad about funding Palestinian deaths, they didn't mention who is funding Israel? They didn't mention the president. They just said, "Oh, we're paying for this genocide." It just hit me now. It's like, wait a minute. Even TYT, they're not even going after Biden. What the fuck is wrong with you? The Gaza stuff has really made me lose whatever trust I still had in the media. Yeah. Edmonton law being debated along with all sorts of insane anti-homeless points would make demonstrations over 50 illegal without a permit. Oh, wow. That's cool. That's some free speech right there. I used to think it was mostly journalists with a liberal bias, but who try to do honest journalism, but still they don't even try. I know, right? Like, it's ridiculous. And all the more reason why we need genuine independent workers' press. Honestly, the finance press is probably the most reliable and ideological of any media. Seriously, read Financial Times. You can get it at the library. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Financial Times is really good for getting your finger on the pulse of, what are rich people worried about right now? The world is actually run by Trotskyists, but only the Jewish ones. That's why you haven't been told where the real secret club is. Yeah, I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that dough. Moreover, these lies are irresponsible and dangerous. The campaign of slander against Palestine solidarity has also been a campaign to convince the general population and Jewish people in particular that they have something to fear from protesters and Palestinians. They're creating a situation tailor-made to give rise to hate crimes, all in the name of covering for the crimes of Israel. When Marxists talk about the bourgeoisie encouraging discrimination and ethnic cleansing for their own ends, this is a perfect example. Now the Toronto police are saying that they will investigate protesters. Police have been complaining for some time that they don't have enough power to deal with protests, and they are sure to use this opportunity to the best of their ability. This will be the latest series in spurious attacks of Palestine movement, like the arrest of the Peace 11 and multiple attempts to shut down solidarity on university campuses. In the face of repression, we must be prepared to stand defiant, and that is the only way to inspire others to strengthen the movement. What is also clear is that if we want a political party that actually supports the cause of the oppressed, the cause of Palestine, then we need to build one ourselves. Every party that exists in Canada has betrayed the Palestinians. At bottom, it is because all of them accept the capitalist system, which means accepting the rule of the imperialists and their interests. The spinelessness and shameful acceptance by the NDP leaders of the lies and slanders over Palestine is a reflection of their utter inability to stand up to the ruling class in general. The only way to consistently fight for a free Palestine is to fight against capitalism, which is why we need a revolutionary communist party. That's interesting. Let's look up the RCP. What were they all about? This is one thing that I will make fun of the IMT for, guys. Come on, not one person spoke up and said like, "Hey, first of all, this name's already spoken for and ruined by a very crazy cult leader named Baba Vakian. What are you doing?" Anyway, it's good that they're leaning further and further into the left and leaning into the calling themselves communists. I think that's a genuinely good step forward. The Canadian Gonzalites were also called RCP. Oh, excellent. I did mention this, but lots of they're like, no, we don't care. That's pretty funny. Anyway, very minor gripe, but that's okay. Let's see. Europe's farmers. This is a nice short article. AFL-CIO has come out and called for a ceasefire. So even the biggest unions are actually like, fuck, man. To get unions to do anything is like pulling teeth these days. And so the fact that like some of the largest unions, Yeah, I know. It is a throwback to Ted Grant's original party. But still, I don't know. I think I still would have gone something different myself, to be honest. The AFL-CIO has called for a ceasefire in Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza. The labor movement must go further for Palestinian liberation and break with the bipartisan regime. On Thursday, the AFL... So this was yesterday. What's the day today? Friday. The AFL-CIO calls for a ceasefire in Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza. The statement came after months of silence during the largest union federation in the United States has gone far as to force a Washington-based labor council to remove its ceasefire resolution. The AFL-CIO's call shows the movement for Palestine and rank-and-file ceasefire organizing has forced labor to shift its position on the assault, and this movement must go further. The AFL-CIO's statement comes after more than 28,000 Palestinians, 40,000 of which are children, have been killed by the IDF, after around 80% of the population is internally displaced, as over half of all buildings in Gaza have been destroyed. To survive, Palestinians in northern Gaza are subsisting on rice, animal feed, contaminated water. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is now planning a ground invasion of the crowded southern city of Rafah, where around 1.5 million Palestinians are sheltering. In response to the Zionist state's genocide, hundreds of thousands across the world have flooded the streets for Gaza. Protests in the United States have been the largest since the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement, and the largest ever for Palestinian liberation. That's true. A lot of the old Marxist fogies that I organize with, guys like go all the way back to Occupy Wall Street. They'll tell you they have never seen a Palestinian demonstration that's maybe more than 24 people. And the largest ever, so young people are reinvigorating the student movement by mobilizing on college campuses against the genocide. People are taking to their workplaces to show solidarity with Gaza. This powerful moment in rank and file labor organizing for Palestine are what have forced union leaderships like that of the AFL-CIO to shift their stance. AFL-CIO is just the latest in a growing list of labor organizations supporting a ceasefire. As early as October, the United Food and Commercial Workers, Local 3000, and the United Electrical Workers sponsored a ceasefire resolution. More recently, the UAW, Federation of Teachers, made similar statements. Nice. Of course, despite these ceasefire calls, labor organizations are still far from demanding the Palestinian liberation. In fact, the AFL-CIO's tepid call mentions a need for humanitarian aid for Gazans without mentioning the Israeli Defense Forces are directly responsible for the destruction and dire conditions in Gaza. The AFT's statement is even worse. Israelis are described as being slaughtered by Hamas, while the tens of thousands of civilian Palestinian deaths seemingly lack a known perpetrator. While a ceasefire is a progressive demand that all unions should have taken up months ago, it is far from enough. Unions should demand an end to U.S. funding and arms shipment to Israel. Workers must force their leaders to, like Starbucks Workers United and UAW Local 551, condemn the apartheid, occupation, and state violence inflicted on Palestinians and support Palestinian self-determination. Unions must end their direct, long-standing support for Zionism, including buying millions of Israeli government bonds. A key limit and contradiction in the ceasefire calls is also union bureaucracy's ties to the Democratic Party. While the movement has forced labor to break from, or at least rhetorically oppose, the bipartisan's regime policy of supporting genocide, major organizations including the AFL-CIO, the AFT, the UAW have endorsed Biden. That was kind of a shock. This was completely done. Management top-down, bureaucracy top-down. Not one worker was consulted or asked to vote on endorsing Joe Biden. Israel's chief ally for president. In other words, these unions are calling for an end to the Israelis' bloody assault while supporting the imperialist regime that is directly funding and providing weapons for the mass slaughter. This is a betrayal of workers everywhere, not just the U.S. workers who've spoken out against their leaders' hypocrisy and opposed the presidential endorsements. Labor leaders' embrace of imperialism is no accident. As Jason Kozlowski explained, our union leaders' positions there atop the Federation helps drive those leaders in the U.S. government's arms. They earn their substantial paychecks from playing the role of national go-between for labor in the U.S. government, building relationships and fostering their prestige with government officials like presidents. Union leaders' jobs are tied up with those of the imperialist state politicians they are linked to, and so they tend to see the U.S. government and Western imperialism as allies, or at least potential allies, helping secure capitalist profits around the globe in a way that they think will help them too. Union bureaucracies need to toe the Democratic Party line is evident that in their ceasefire statements in which they attempt to tie this demand to support for a two-state solution, which is increasingly becoming the line of the Biden administration. In this context, these organizations are trying to co-opt the rank and file. So I'm going to move this over here so you guys not see the bags under my eyes. Co-opt the rank and file and the movement in the streets by granting a concession. In other words, unions are offering a lukewarm ceasefire statement while trying to convince us that we are fighting for is actually a two-state solution instead of actual liberation for the Palestinian people from the river to the sea. Workers need to fight to wrest back control of our unions and definitely break from imperialism, from Zionism, and for both Democrats and Republicans. Neither Biden nor Donald Trump, who has been courting an endorsement from the Teamsters Union, are friends of the working class. Whether in the United States or abroad, a ceasefire demand is a first step, but 12.5 million workers across 60 unions that make up the AFL-CIO have the power to grind the war machinery everywhere to a complete halt. It's time for workers to use our power to stop this genocide and ramp up the struggle against imperialism. That's right. So, kudos to calling for a ceasefire, but we have the power to do more. And the only way that we can guarantee a ceasefire is by withholding our labor. I think that's the gist of the article there. Oh man, great way to close, great thing to close this tab too. Oh man, I've talked a lot. Okay. Hakeem. Okay, I'll let you guys decide. First person to decide. Hakeem video on landlords or an archaeology video. What do you guys want to watch? I promised I would include more archaeology content. Okay, first one to answer.
What do you think of? My hair is in my face. Do you think of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? Do you think of God creating Earth and all of its creatures in just a handful of days? Do you think of that one relative who uses every family event as a platform to try and convert you? Or do you think of feet? How do you like that for a hook? That's called audience retention. It's very important. Last week, the Wheel of Pain decided that I would be talking about the Fisher Canyon footprints. This is a location which is cited by some creationists and conspiracy theorists as evidence that humans have been on the Earth for the past 200 million years. But as I was doing research for this video, I came to a horrifying realization that this is far from the only example of creationist foot conspiracies. And because I only have so much patience and I value your sanity, I've decided that I am going to just try and kill 3 birds with 1 stone. So ladies and gentlemen, it is both my great pleasure and great shame to present to you this episode some fossilized footprints, or what some claim to be fossilized footprints, that are instances of out-of-place artifacts. An out-of-place artifact, or an UPA, as it is comedically shortened to, is an instance of something which conspiracy theorists and creationists will use to back up the idea that humans have been on Earth for far longer than science has told you. For those of you that have been with me since TikTok, you will know that I've covered many of these before. Things like the London Hammer and the Clute Bowl, and a bunch of other stupid shit. These out-of-place artifacts are used by a very specific demographic demographic of people, and my favorite demographic of people on the entire planet. You know them, you love them, they're young Earth creationists. Now, before I get started, it is important to mention that I am talking specifically about young Earth creationism in this video. I'm not just talking about creationism in general, or religion in general, because lumping all of those groups of people together would be pretty horrible to do, wouldn't it? Think before you post that comment. So as we get started, I think it's important to define what young Earth creationism actually is. Young Earth creationists are a group of people who will use the Bible in its literal interpretation, and they believe that the Earth and all of the creatures on it were created in their present form by God no more than 10,000 years ago. Now, some of you may be thinking, but how do people think that? We have so much evidence to prove that the Earth is far older than 10,000 years. Well, what you won't be shocked to know is that young Earth creationists are in a minority. But what you will be shocked to know is that that minority was 38% of Americans in 2017. But 2017 was a while ago, so let's look at a more recent study. In an article from 2019, that demographic has actually changed, and it's 40% now. Do you guys like my power cord? It's held together entirely by electrical tape. There's like 4 more electrical tape spots as you go closer to the wall. And there are
half the cords in my house are covered in electrical tape because I own bunnies who eat them. Have you come across the new chronology theory? One of my favorite conspiracy. No, I have not. New chronology is a pseudo-historical conspiracy theory proposed by Anatoly Fomenko, who argues the events of antiquity generally attributed to the ancient civilizations of Rome, Greece, and Egypt actually occurred during the Middle Ages, more than 1,000 years later. Why? What do you gain from this? That's really weird. Like, aliens I can understand. Oh, is he trying to? He's trying to crunch all of written history into 6,000 years, isn't he? Is that what he's doing?
Countless publications, websites, and radio shows that are dedicated to this way of thinking. For example, we have this, which is the Creation Museum website, which has on the side this incredible little piece that just says, "Did humans live with dinosaurs?" As if it was some sort of rhetorical question. 65 million years ago, a giant asteroid entered the Earth's atmosphere. Dinosaurs? Or did it? That's good, I like that. And then underneath there's ticket options, so if you're engaged by that really deceiving hook, you can give them money. Then it has a picture of an ankylosaurus walking through a woods, which I'm a big fan of. That's a pretty good looking guy. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you're greeted with what appears to be a child gleefully being chased by a velociraptor. If you get curious enough that you scroll down looking for answers, you are met with an unfalsifiable hypothesis. Think about it. Were you there when God created the Earth?
Oh
no.
My God.
It answers its own question. How do you know I wasn't there? Now, I may be laughing, but I think I'm being a little bit too harsh, because saying, "were you there," actually is a really good point. Because there was this one time where I caught a fish that was this big. One of my favorite creationists is none other than Ken Ham.
Hell
he
yeah.
is a staunch evolution denier, which is very weird coming from a man who spent his younger years looking like a Neanderthal. And he's also responsible for building this, which some of you may recognize as the Ark Encounter from Kentucky. It is pretty much a gigantic creationist theme park that is built inside of a replica of Noah's Ark built to all of the specifications from the Bible. I think this is one of the most American things I've ever seen in my entire life. Ken Ham also took it as a personal attack that Canada outlawed conversion therapy, because, you know, nothing...
No, I'll show you the most American thing I've ever seen, and it's one of my... Hey, what are you doing? The McDonald's crucifixion is the most American thing on the planet. Where is it? Yeah. This is objectively the funniest image. This is so American.
Says, "I love all God's children," quite like trying to make some of them hate the way they were born. Really on the right side of history there, Ken Ham. But actually, this elderly neckbeard is one of the LGBTQ plus community's greatest allies, because he went above and beyond and lit up the Ark Encounter, his very own creationist museum, with the pride flag. You know, I heard some rumor somewhere that he did it to take back God's colors, but we all know that that's horribly offensive, insensitive, and homophobic, so he obviously couldn't have been saying that, and we're just putting words in his mouth. Seeing a creationist museum lit up with with the colors that the entire world views as the pride colors is probably the most glorious thing I've seen in my entire life. You really thought you did something there, Ken Ham. Oh, and the slogan for the Ark Encounter is, "It's bigger than imagination," which, at the risk of making too many jokes in one sentence, sounds like you're projecting a little. Alright, that's enough time spent talking about Ken Ham and his homoerotic boat. By and large, the young Earth conspiracy. That's funny. By and large, the young Earth creationist rhetoric is more or less consistent. It consistently makes up its own evidence, and then that evidence consistently falls apart. So I guess without further ado, why don't we get started? Thanks, Milo. We're actually getting to the episode now. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to present to you the Fisher Canyon prints are a fairly infamous example of these creationist footprints. This discovery has been used in publications like God or Gorilla by Alfred Watson McCann in 1922, or if we want to call it by its full name, God or Gorilla, How the Monkey Theory of Evolution Exposes Its Own Methods, Refutes Its Own Principles, Denies Its Own Inferences, Disproves Its Own Case by Alfred Watson McCann. Oh, it's Watterson, not Watson. Oh wait, I don't care. I don't know why they didn't just go with God or Gorilla. That's like almost a snappy title. Why'd they have to add all the other shit? And if you go to just like the second or third page of this creationist book from the 1920s, you are met with one of the greatest dedications ever written. Because this book is dedicated to all lovers of truth. I'm telling you, these jokes just write themselves. This book also has a picture of a skeleton of an orangutan, which is labeled as the skeleton of a chimpanzee. So there's that. The Fisher Canyon prints were also discussed in the 1975 book, Views on Creation, Evolution, and Fossil Man. But this book pretty much just parrots everything that Alfred, lover of truth, McCann says in his. Sorry, I mean Alfred doesn't know what an orangutan is, McCann says in his book. The only difference is that the 1975 book claims that the Fisher Canyon print was analyzed under a microscope, proving that the print shows evidence of stitching in the sole of the shoe. However, it shows none of these pictures, and there's no evidence that it was ever analyzed under a microscope, so this is wrong. The Fisher Canyon prints were found, obviously, in Fisher Canyon. Located in Pershing County, Nevada, this location has a 1-star review on Google Maps. And judging by what that review says, it was probably written by the same person who would play the Soviet national anthem bass boosted in the back of your bus and think he was fucking hilarious. I would also give it a 1-star review, but that's because it's not a canyon and this is just false advertising. But I'd expect nothing less from a state whose main attraction is a theme park city named after the Spanish word for the meadows and not the Spanish word for giant pile of broken glass and syphilis. There are a few different stories as to how this print was found. One of these accounts is that it was discovered by amateur geologist John T. Reed in 1922. I like the term amateur geologists. It's just like somebody who likes rocks. Interestingly, this is actually the same guy who excavated Lovelock Cave in 1920.
I can't tell you, working, digging near in the public view, how many people have come up to me and bothered me and told me that they are amateur archaeologists. It usually just means they're looters or the collectors, or they're like metal detectors, and they piss me off. Metal detectors especially piss me off the most.
12, which is something I'll probably have to talk about eventually, because you can't talk about pseudo-archaeology without talking about that one, unfortunately. But in doing research for this video, I found that it is far more likely the discovery was made by Albert. I've said Alfred about 6 times trying to film this. Albert Knapp in 1917. He worked for the Nevada Mining Co., which would make sense because it was mining in Nevada. So that would check out. The first public information on the find is from March 18th of 1922, and it's actually from the New York Times of all places. There is then another article from October 8th of 1922 from the New York Sunday American. It's called The Mystery of the Petrified Shoe Sole, and it was published by a man named Baloo, which I think that Baloo and the Mystery of the Petrified Shoe is a fantastic name for a children's book for any of you who would be interested in writing such a thing. There once was a man named Baloo. He found a petrified shoe. You guys can finish that limerick in the comments. This is a quote from the Sunday American article discussing the discovery. Some time ago, while he was prospecting for fossils in Nevada, John T. Reed, a distinguished mining engineer and geologist, stopped suddenly and looked down in utter bewilderment and amazement at a rock near his feet. I don't know why this article says that Reed found it, because he didn't, but whatever. But it does say that he's a distinguished mining engineer and geologist and not a guy who likes rocks, so I guess that's an improvement. For there, a part of the rock itself was what seemed to be a human footprint. Upon closer inspection, it was shown that it was not the mark of a naked foot, but was apparently a shoe sole which had turned into stone. The forepart was missing, we'll get into that, but there was the outline of at least 2/3 of it, and around the outline ran a well-defined sewn thread which had, it appeared, attached the welt to the sole. My great-uncle was a cobbler, but I did not inherit any of the language, so I don't really know what a welt is. Well, I do know what a welt is, but that's only because I've stood too close to a pitchback. Further on was another line of sewing. Oh my god, this guy uses so many commas. Further on was another line of sewing, comma, and in the center, comma, where the foot would have rested had the object really been a shoe sole, comma, there was an indentation, comma, exactly such as would have been made by the bone of the heel rubbing upon and wearing down the material of which the sole had been made, period. I wonder if he was getting paid by the word. Thus was found a fossil which is the foremost mystery of science today. No, it isn't. For the rock in which it was found is at least 5 million years old. The guy who wrote this article doesn't really seem to know what's going on because he accredits the wrong person to finding it and then claims that the stone is 5 million years old, which 5 million years would only date it to the middle of the Pliocene, which is not the case. This rock is actually from the Triassic, making it about 210 million years old. Now, of course, young Earth creationists who have found this print and found that they can fit it into their box of belief will just negate the fact that this rock is really old and claim that it's 10,000 years old, because it's a lot easier to shape facts around your beliefs than shape your beliefs around the facts. So what is this footprint? Because we all know that people did not exist that long ago. Again, for those of you who followed me on TikTok, you're
interesting analysis of dialectics and materialism versus ideology, right? In my research on Marxism and archaeology, it turns out that Marxism actually had a huge influence on archaeological thought throughout the 20th century.
already going to recognize the solution that I have to what this artifact is. This is an ironstone concretion. A concretion is a sedimentary feature in which pieces of sediment will adhere to a harder node within the sedimentary strata. Sometimes it'll be a small pebble, sometimes just a dense clump of sediment. It can be leaves, it can be fossils, it can be a whole host of different things. And as the sediment will adhere to it, it'll create this really hard piece of stone within the relatively uniform sedimentary rock around it. They can be very easily mistaken for fossil. I myself have picked them up thinking that they're seashells or coral, and then found out that they were just a rock and got horribly depressed. And of course, for those of you that watched my first video on YouTube, there are some people who think the concretions are the remains of windows from melted buildings. An important piece to note about this, which Baloo actually brings up in his article quote that I just read, is that it's broken in half. We don't know what the tip of the shoe sole actually looked like. So the way that the inference was made that this looks like a shoe sole is because someone saw that, related it to something in their own life, and was just like, I can just infer the rest and make it fit whatever I want it to fit. Here's a list of other shapes that the concretion could have had, none of which look like a shoe. Again, that is just adding your own externalities into a piece of evidence in order to make it say whatever you want it to say. And the banding here, which they say is the stitching in the bottom of a shoe, is something which is actually indicative of an ironstone concretion. These features are actually called Liesgang rings, and they are what happens when water will seep into the rock, oxidize the iron which is inside of it, and create these kind of concentric circles that are a reddish color. So what these people found is not evidence that man walked the earth 2 million years ago. What it is a half-interesting example of geology and an opportunity for me to teach you about concretions. Good night and God bless. All right, let's move on. You got a headache yet? Yes? Good, because we're moving on. Let's talk about the Jackson County footprints. In the 1880s, a wagon train rode through Jackson County, Kentucky, a state which I don't think I've made a joke about yet, but I don't have to, because the joke is itself. The wagon train rode near the town of what is now Morill, or Morill, or some other thing, I don't know. Phonetics evade me. And in 1885, Professor F.J. Brown of Brea College found footprints which were located along this wagon train. Again, I don't know if this is Brea College, I could not tell you. Kentucky seems to have just centralized all of the things that are not pronounced phonetically. Where stone had been chipped away by the wagon wheels, it had revealed the remains of stone that dated back 360 million years to the middle of the Carboniferous period. And in this newly exposed stone, the professor found the remains of footprints from bears, horses, and humans. I'm going to say that for you one more time, and I'm going to let you figure out what's wrong with it. They found the remains of footprints from bears, horses, and humans. Congratulations, you figured it out. None of those three things existed 360 million years ago. Let's talk about bears first, because they're adorable, and why would I not talk about bears? Did you know that bears are the youngest of all carnivore families? Yeah? Good for you, that's awesome. Bears arose during the Eocene, which was about 40 to 55 million years ago. Which, yeah, it's a really long time ago, but it also wasn't all that long ago in the scale of geologic time. For example, the Earth looked like this, which looks more or less like what it is today. It kind of looks like what would happen if you told someone to draw a map of the Earth from memory after they did a keg stand. And bears didn't even spread into Eurasia and the rest of the world until about 5 million years ago, meaning that they only had a little bit of a head start on humans, with our oldest ancestors like Ardipithecus arising 5.6 million years ago. And because of this, most evidence of ancient bears is fairly recent, like this bear tooth, which they found in Canada, which is dated to be about 3.5 million years old. And what's even better is that this bear tooth has a cavity, because this bear was a little guy and he wanted to eat sweet things, which I think is great. I'll give him a little pat on the head and tell him he's doing a great job, but also tell him to brush his teeth, because dental hygiene is very important. Okay, now horses. The earliest ancestor of horses arose around 60 million years ago. Their oldest known ancestor is this monstrosity, known as a Hyracotherium. I bet some scientists thought they were being really intelligent by naming it something which translates to the dawn horse, but it doesn't matter to me because I am going to call it stupid dumbass. It is actually the very first member of the family Equidae, which is the family that horses are in. But it is also proof that being first in something does not always mean that you won. Remains of this strange rat horse have been found in clay deposits in what is now southern England. 60 million years ago, this area was a lush tropical forest instead of a desolate wasteland full of people with worse dental hygiene than the bear we just talked about. Now, interestingly, they've also found fossils of the Hyracotherium in the eastern United States. But when they found the fossils in the eastern United States, they didn't know that they had also found fossils in England, so they ended up naming the fossils in the United States an entirely different thing. The discovery in the United States was called Eohippus, while the one in England was called Hyracotherium. And then eventually they ended up showing their fossils to one another and were like, shit, we found the same thing. And then for some reason England got to keep their name. I don't know why. Maybe they were bitter about the revolution and we thought we'd give them something. Another little piece of early horse trivia that you're never going to need in your entire life is that the anatomist Richard Owen analyzed the Eohippus fossil, I believe, and he at first thought it was some sort of monkey because of its teeth. I don't know what you're ever going to do with that information, but I think it's kind of funny. Okay, my point is that none of these animals existed during the Carboniferous period. So let's step back a little bit. A man found the prints of horses, bears, and humans in an area which is full of giant forested hills. Through these giant forested hills is one throughway, a wagon train in the mountains. What kind of things would frequent a wagon train? Humans, horses, and other giant animals that don't want to have to walk through the forest and would also take a path of least resistance. Like a bear. What Professor Brown found was not a fossil from the Carboniferous period. He just found a hardened piece of mud with footprints in it. He also never took any pictures or documented these footprints in any sort of tangible way, though he is recorded as saying about the human prints that they were, quote, good size, toes well spread, and distinctly marked, which sounds a lot more like something that someone that you went to high school with would comment on your Instagram pictures of you at the beach, and then you would promptly block them. These are not fossilized footprints, and they are not as old as he says they are. Take that, Bria College. I got my eye on you. Alright, let's talk about the Paluxy River footprints. I'm filming this for like the third time and I am ready to lose my mind. The Paluxy River is about 30 miles long and flows through the town of Glen Rose, Texas. Glen Rose, Texas has a Burger King next to a place called Nuclear Nutrition, which has got to be the worst advertising campaign since the Love Canal after-school water park program or the Chernobyl graphite kicking contest. Not only does the river flow through the town of Glen Rose, it also flows through the Glen Rose Formation, which is a long limestone formation which used to be a piece of lower Cretaceous shoreline. Today, this limestone is home to a myriad of fossils of bivalves, corals, and gastropods. And while all of those things are pretty interesting, they pale in comparison to the crown jewel of the Glen Rose Formation, which are the dinosaur footprints which can be found there. In fact, the prints are so well preserved around the town of Glen Rose that they actually opened a state park around them. The Texas State Park Committee really racked their brains to come up with a creative name for their new state park, and so they settled on calling it Dinosaur Valley State Park, which, I mean, gets to the point. You're not going to show up there and expect redwoods. Dinosaur Valley State Park is located directly along the Paluxy River. But right before the river flows through the park, it flows right through the front lawn of the Creation Evidence Museum, which is just amazing. Having a creationist evidence museum a stone's throw away from a state park built around dinosaur footprints is probably the most American thing I've ever seen, right next to Ken Ham's giant gay boat. Today there are 5 locations that you can go to see the dinosaur prints at the state park. However, at the time of me filming this, one of those locations is closed, leading to this amazing map which has all 5 locations labeled as sites 1, 2, 4, and 5. There are tracks of both theropods and sauropods, and in one particular instance, the tracks of a young sauropod being pursued by a theropod, which is as interesting as it is sad. And because this was once a mucky lagoon shore, there's evidence of these giant dinosaurs slipping around in the mud, which is just adorable. So how were these prints found? In 1908, a flood washed down the Paluxy River and broke off an enormous piece of limestone from the shore. Underneath the limestone, there were dinosaur footprints. And while these drew the attention of people, what kept their attention was the 10 to 15 inch long man tracks that accompanied them. Which I'm glad they specified that they were man tracks, because we all know that back then, there was no women, they hadn't invented them yet. It was just men, testosterone, and Ken Ham's big gay pleasure cruise. Now some of these tracks were cut out and sold during the Great Depression. Others of these tracks were carved, then cut out, and then sold during the Great Depression because a lot of them were fake. And they were studied in 1939 by Ronald T. Byrd, who conducted his own excavation there. Now, the discoveries of the man tracks by Ronald T. Byrd were actually supported by people like Carl Baugh. Oh, you don't know who Carl Baugh is? Oh, he's a young Earth creationist, and he owns the Creation Evidence Museum, which is right down the river that I just showed you. Interestingly, the Creation Evidence Museum actually has some things I've talked about before, like the London Hammer. But the last time I talked about it was on TikTok, and there was a wet-lipped British man talking about it.
Why did they find a hammer that was dated back 400 million years ago?
It also has the Moab skeletons, which I have not talked about before, but I'm pretty sure they're on the Wheel of Pain, so I'll unfortunately have to talk about them eventually. But Carl Baugh uses these footprints as evidence that humans coexisted with dinosaurs, which 5-year-old me would have been absolutely thrilled about, but unfortunately, I am not a 5-year-old or a creationist. So what are the man tracks? Good job, everyone who made it to the debunking portion. This is the part I do best. All of the prints found at the site are dinosaur prints. Not a single one of them is a human footprint, obviously. So why do they look like human footprints? Well, spoilers, they don't. They just don't have the distinctive toes that the dinosaur tracks have. So really what you're looking at is just sort of a depression in the limestone and assuming that it's a human print. It's important to note that this is a sedimentary rock, it's very soft, and it's been exposed to flowing water for more than the last 100 years. It's also just been subject to general erosion over time, so of course some of the prints don't look exactly like a stereotypical dinosaur footprint. So if you can't see the toes, how do I know it's a dinosaur print? We're gonna do a little bit of at-home math here. What weighs more, a human or a theropod? A theropod. Good job, you got it. So now explain to me why the prints of a human and the prints of a gigantic lizard would be pressed the same amount into the sediment. They wouldn't be. They wouldn't be. A human walking in this sediment would leave a very, very small footprint, while a dinosaur would leave a much deeper footprint. Now this relies on the concept that some of the tracks had the toes filled in with sediment. But amazingly, you don't even need to take my word for it, because we actually have proof that all of these tracks are dinosaur tracks. Glenn Cuban, who is a dinosaur footprint expert, actually did his own research at the site, and he found that most of the prints which were labeled as man tracks were just dinosaur prints that had the toes filled in with sediment. It became easier to tell this over time as the sediment within the toes was a slightly different makeup than the sediment around it. So over the years it had oxidized slightly differently, meaning that the toes now kind of had a little bit of a reddish hue or a bluish hue, which helped it stand out from the more uniform limestone around it. Now this may not have been immediately apparent to the people who first found the tracks because the stone in the toes hadn't oxidized yet. That, or they just purposely left out that detail because it would suit their opinions and beliefs better. In fact, Cuban said that the evidence proving that these were dinosaur tracks and not human tracks, quote, practically jumped out at you. And this isn't even the first location where this phenomenon has been found. At the first International Conference of Dinosaur Tracks, which is a thing apparently, David Gillette claimed that he had found a very similar thing happening to dinosaur prints in Clayton, New Mexico. Interestingly, the Paluxy River prints actually helped us understand how dinosaurs walk. Before this, there was some belief that dinosaurs walked on their toes, I don't know why anyone would ever believe that, but because of these prints, we learned that they actually put most of their weight on their heels, which would make sense, because every other animal does the same thing. You know I don't mean every other animal, I'm generalizing here, so you don't have to point it out, appreciate it. Except for horses, who are constantly walking on their pinky toes, or whatever that thing is. I don't know, horse skeletons are fucking scary. There are some other indentations in the sediment there, which are evidence of dinosaur tails dragging, or them putting their noses into the sediment to scrounge around, forage, or be giant babies. Now, Cuban, being a scientist, wanted to present his findings to a demographic that mattered. So he invited John D. Morris, a young Earth creationist, to come to the site with him to analyze his findings. Morris is the president for the Institute for Creation Research, which I don't even need to explain to you because it's exactly what it sounds like. And Morris said of the tracks, quote, "It would now be improper for creationists to use the Paluxy data as evidence against evolution." That is coming from the mouth of a creationist. Now, because I know that there's going to be a lot of people thinking about this while watching this video, we gotta talk about religion briefly. My point of this video is to prove that these discoveries do not support the idea of young Earth creationism. Young Earth creationism has little to no credibility and is pseudoscience. And I will argue that all day long. But this is not an attack on religion. As I mentioned at the beginning of the—
No, come on, man. Like, if anyone was watching this and keeping up by now, like, if you seriously still took this as an attack on religion, then that's on you. That's not on this kid.
This video, it's very important for all of us watching this to understand that I am talking about a handful of discoveries and a very specific fringe group of religion.
You don't gotta worry about offending fucking
as
Christians.
In fact, Cuban wrote after the discovery, quote, "I am a Christian and believe in the Creator, but have not yet formed definite conclusions about some aspects of the origins controversy, such as the exact age of the Earth or the limits of biological change. I choose to publish my research in creation and evolution, not to attack creationism, but to help set the record straight on the true nature of the Paluxy evidence." End quote. This is a fantastic way to think. I have a lot of respect for someone who is able to look for the truth despite what they have been taught to believe, and to inform the way they think based on the research which they do. We live in a time where people no longer change their opinions based on facts. They change their facts based on their opinions. And young Earth creationism is something in which all of its evidence can be almost effortlessly debunked. But this is not an attack on belief. Each and every one of us can believe whatever we want, and that is our truth. But in the words of everyone's favorite archaeologist, archaeology is the search for fact, not truth. If it's truth you're interested in, Dr. Tyree's philosophy class is right down the hall. Before I let you go, let's have a look at what we're going to talk about next week. Spin that wheel, Big Papa! Oh, great. We're going to be talking about the Baghdad Battery's shitty little brother. And we also have to do the fan art section, because apparently I can get away with that now. This beautiful little caricature was made by a...
Okay, don't really care. Yeah, good video. Good stuff. Young Earth creationism is hilarious and was actually a massive gateway into me becoming an atheist, believe it or not. What the hell is I gonna search? What else did I have lined up? Let's do Landlords by Hakeem.
Number one is income. When I look at somebody's income, I want to see
houses in that area.
that they have three
You should take the lower end of 42,200.
Even if they are making $1,000.
Hello. Today we'll be talking about landlords and everything problematic with the idea of landlordism. To get the primary thesis of the video out of the way, landlords are mostly parasitical in the economic sense, people who hoard property in order to profit from the misery of inbuilt income inequality that exists and that they massively contribute to within capitalist societies. I'm not talking about individual landlords here or their moral character, just the entire institution. Furthermore, I care less about your elderly grandparents that work their whole lives to have a single property to rent for their retirement, and more about the multi-million and billion-dollar individuals and companies that own dozens, if not hundreds and thousands of properties with basically no oversight. Historically, landlords over land got it through aristocratic privilege, politically preferential treatment for the ruling class, or outright robbery. This is the story of pretty much all large non-state-owned land, be it First World or Third. Let's share a few quotes from Adam Smith and Karl Marx on the subject of renting and landlordism in general, shall we? Landlord's right has its origin in robbery. The landlord, like all other men, loves to reap what they never sowed, and demand a rent even for the natural produce of the earth. The landlord is the one whose revenue costs them neither labor nor care, but comes to them, as it were, of its own accord, and independent of any plan or project of their own. Adam Smith even dunks on the idea that landlords justify themselves by maintaining the land that they own. The rent of land, it may be thought, is frequently no more than a reasonable profit or interest for the stock laid out by the landlord upon its improvement. This no doubt may be partly the case upon some occasions. The landlord demands, 1. A rent even for unimproved land, and the supposed interest or profit upon the expense of improvement is generally in addition to this original rent. 2. Those improvements, besides, are not always made by the stock of the landlord, but sometimes by that of the tenant. When the lease comes to be renewed, however, the landlord commonly demands the same augmentation of rent as if they had been all made by his own. 3. He sometimes demands rent for what is altogether incapable of human improvement. Now, if you'll indulge me one more quote, Marx beautifully says, "Let us now see how the landlord exploits everything from which society benefits. Every improvement in the circumstances of society tends either directly or indirectly to raise the real rent of land, to increase the real wealth of the landlord, his power of purchasing the labor, or the produce of the labor of other people." In essence, according to Smith and Marx, landlords are those who love to benefit from labor they didn't do, who contribute next to nothing as a generator of revenue from their so-called investment, and are ones that benefit from society without benefiting society themselves. Now, are there any good landlords? Well, no, not really. Again, this isn't a moral argument or a commentary on the character of individual landlords, but even in the best case scenario, where you have a landlord that charges you a so-called reasonable amount, actually repairs stuff and is nice to you, there still is an imbalance in this relationship, one predicated on violence through threat of eviction, mind you. Firstly, how nice he is to you depends on your paying of the rent, and out of the money you pay, he takes a sum and uses it to repair stuff, so in all honesty, it's you paying for the repairs of someone else's property, and the so-called reasonable amount he charges doesn't change, whether the mortgage on the property is paid off or not. In fact, I've never heard of a rent discount once a mortgage on property was paid off, which should be logical for the oh-so-nice landlord. He is still sitting on and profiting from property that you could have gotten a mortgage yourself to pay, and actually live in the damn place instead of just accumulating property to rent out, but the bank deemed you too insecure of an investment to make monthly $600 payments. As a result, you pay $1,200 to a landlord, month in and month out, for your entire life, basically. Someone, or more commonly a massive corporate entity, just so happens to start off with more money than you, and as a result, you have to continuously put money into the cycle of ever-increasing income inequality despite having the long-term ability to pay off shelter that you would actually be living in. This point cannot be understated. Unless you already have money, the system is rigged against you. Sadly, or better yet predictably, capitalism turns most necessities, shelter being primary among them, into speculative assets. The housing stock is already built, the workers paid, actual homes just sitting there, but instead comes a landlord buys up several of those already existing properties and extracts profits from the most vulnerable in society. Of course, this isn't even talking about slumlords, through which quite a many seemingly respectable businessmen got their starts. Statistics and realities. This is all according to a great article titled "There is no such thing as a good landlord," linked in the pinned comment below. In the UK alone, there is a housing need of 4.7 million people. The figure in the US is over 5 million. With a need to build 340,000 new homes every year until 2031 to make up the amount. The actual number being built was only 160,000. At the same time, there are 320,000 people homeless in the UK, with almost half of those being children, and 1.15 million people on waiting lists for social housing. In the US, the official figure for homelessness is nearly 600,000 people, but the actual amount is much, much higher due to a clever sleight of hand intended to paint a more pleasant picture. What this all means is that the supply doesn't meet the demand, mouthwatering news for a prospective landlord. Less supply with a constant, if not rapidly increasing demand means property values skyrocket. A two-way street, of course, as more landlords try to buy up as much as they can chasing this golden goose, further increasing property prices. People already renting see the potential of ever owning their own property drifting farther and farther away as housing stock depletes and becomes increasingly more expensive, with the average house price being 8 times the UK average wage, and as high as 14 times that in London. The figure is only slightly better, at 7 times the average US yearly salary in the United States. In the UK, if you don't earn the equivalent of $83,000 a year, or nearly $140,000 a year in London, then it will be virtually impossible for you to ever own your own place. In the US, to afford the average house price of $374,000 via mortgage, you would need a minimum income of $105,000 per year. For many, a virtual impossibility. You either rent or you're on the streets. Thus, you have no choice but to rent and pay whatever price desired by the landlord, as shelters kinda non-negotiable. This isn't even speaking of the lack of options those homeless have, of which thousands die every year during the winter. After all, those homeless and the high likelihood of disease or death are the threat landlords use to force renters to accept ridiculous asking amounts for, in many cases, old, unrenovated, poorly heated, and spatially restrictive homes. The system is fundamentally weighed in favor of landlords, with the average one making more than twice the average national salary within the UK. The US has muddier stats, but the number falls between 1.5 to 3 times the average national salary depending on how you measure it. Even if there's a downturn in the market and rent goes lower, they still have a property, an asset, something with the potential to appreciate the second the market bounces back. This is the story pretty much everywhere. Most people spend about 25% of their monthly income on rent, and in some places this number can be as high as 30, 40, 60% or even higher of your monthly income. And the beauty is you can't do anything about it because usually all the good jobs are in large cities with already bloated renting or property markets. Fundamentally, landlords both create and profit from the existence of poverty and homelessness. In all essence, rent is a tax placed by the better off in society on usually the poorest in society for daring to be poor and want to live somewhere habitable. Landlords are superfluous. It's absentee ownership. Landlords earn money from tenants due to property rights, not their labor. Landlords make their money while sleeping, eating, or just existing while you go to work every single day. All while not living there and being able to charge you however much they want and dictate terms on how you live in your own home, which isn't really your own home. As with every argument in the support of capitalism, choice is equated with an ultimatum. They take the money you pay them to pay off the property and then take a little extra as profit. Everything a landlord does or pays for comes from your wallet, be it property tax, maintenance, or whatever else. If the landlord didn't exist, then the tenant would pay less overall. Landlords are unnecessary middlemen that profit off of poverty and homelessness. There is no skill required to buy housing, with the only requirement being money or access to finance. To notice that there is a need in a community for housing is to notice that people need food, meaning a completely ridiculous thing to stake your right to hoard housing to. To quote the Greater Manchester Housing Action, a landlord might argue that they possess a skill in predicting in advance when a residential area will gentrify, and then use their skill to invest shrewdly in such areas to bring themselves greater profit margins. Such a skill is of no benefit to society, so it's unclear why it warrants financial reward. Minimal bravery is required to invest in a rental property. In the unlikely event a landlord fails to find some desperate soul to rent their purchase to, they still have a capital asset that is likely to have appreciated in value. The administrative burden of being a landlord is minimal when compared with running a cotton mill or a curry house. Relevant examples from earlier in the article. Arranging viewings, having to occasionally call a plumber, supplying annual gas safety certificates, etc. are not arduous tasks. Despite this, many landlords either fail to fulfill their small role adequately or subcontract to a letting agent who is usually effectively paid by the renter through further inflated rent. By the time a landlord takes ownership of a home, the home already exists. The workers involved in the hard work of physical construction give society its housing stock and the renter their shelter, not the landlord. Our housing stock has already been paid for. That we continue to pay for it again and again in perpetuity is a form of collective madness. The problem is systemic. It's not the individual landlords that are the problem, it's the existence of the landlord layer of society that is. The existence of this entire group, that own housing for whatever reason and leaves the rest unable to do the same unless they pay a monthly fee to use said housing that the landlord just has and doesn't use, is a societal issue, regardless of whether the person you're renting from is a good or bad person. A potential solution and conclusion. I did not intend for that to rhyme. The obvious solution is socialism, with publicly owned housing for all. Pretty much every single socialist country, both historically as well as today, had either eliminated homelessness or have negligent amounts, especially compared to the behemoth homeless populations of the US, UK, and rest of the so-called prosperous Western capitalist democracies. I've spoken extensively on socialism elsewhere, and concrete steps can only be taken through direct action, organization building, and agitation. To quote an interesting idea termed the people's rented sector from the same Manchester source earlier, if we broke away from landlordism, our housing costs would be limited to the cost of keeping our homes in a good state of repair and fit for human habitation, alongside a small contribution to the cost of continually replenishing the nation's housing stock. For most renters, this would represent a life-changing reduction in housing costs. We would then all have the choice to either use the money saved on things that actually bring us happiness, or cut our working hours, giving us more leisure time to do things that bring us happiness. And we would do so living without fear of homelessness. The overall benefit to society would be immense. Interesting, in my opinion, as one prong of a multifaceted political approach towards housing when working within the capitalist system. However, the only concrete and permanent change will come with the overthrow of the capitalist system and the construction of socialism. Here's the crappy arguments landlords and their bootlickers use to justify their existence. Hilariously, when doing a bit of research to find the absolutely strongest arguments landlords have, you come across insane takes like, I have to provide access for the disabled, and if I, from my eternal benevolence, didn't provide housing, the homeless would proliferate. Proliferate, I say! Despite conveniently forgetting that eviction is one of the largest reasons for homelessness, and the fact that to these people, the possibility is either be homeless or be a tenant. Absolutely no room to entertain the possibility of people owning the homes they live in. If only we lived in a sane world where regular people aren't priced out by investment firms, or, better yet, housing is socialized. Furthermore, you come across stuff like this in which, when enumerating all the things landlords do, over half the points are have money, and the other half being spend the tenants' money. By the way, the guy that posted this is some business bro type trying to shill his books on flipping houses, and has some other gems such as this to say. There is no law stopping them, meaning the poors, from buying houses and renting them out for whatever price they think is fair, or even for free. Yes, this is the caliber of people we're dealing with.
The world needs landlords. Oh my god. The simple fact is that landlords are needed to provide housing for people who want to, and renting them out for whatever price they think is fair or even free. I'm not sure why people should not be able to profit from housing anyway. People are allowed to profit on food, water, and clothing. Yes, that's also a problem. And those are just as essential as housing, but we never hear that all grocery store owners should get a job and stop selling food. If people want to get ahead in life, real estate, in particular rental properties, is one of the best ways to do it. Funny enough, there was a small town in Florida where the last grocery store left because it wasn't profitable to sell food to poor people in Florida. So the town bought the property that the last grocery store was in, and the town just opened up a town grocery store. So the grocery store was owned by the city. All the workers kept their jobs. They were actually got raises, and local farmers filled the grocery shops. They filled the shelves. And it's so much more effective. Galen Weston might legit be the most hated person in Canada right now. God, I hope so. Yeah, does Galen Weston provide food? No. He doesn't grow it, ship it, or sell it.
Let's jump right into it. But landlords are doing a social good by providing housing.
No, they're not. They're withholding housing.
Most common argument you'll come across, in my opinion. Their logic goes that without their generosity in allowing you to rent, homelessness would proliferate as landlords, apparently, buy property in order to provide the poor somewhere to stay for an affordable rate. Where would we be without such philanthropes? And I thought they were in it for the money. Silly me. Joking aside, this delusion is part of that trash can of ideology we always hear about. In reality, landlords in, for example, the UK have prevented 2.2 million families from homeownership in 2018 alone. I've seen a silly comparison that they do a lot that goes like this. Why would providing housing and charging for it be any more evil than a farmer growing food and selling it, a baker charging for the bread he baked, or any other commerce for profit? Well, in those examples, the baker or farmer are actually, working. They're providing a tangible good. They're not renting the bread or vegetables to you while they own them. Once you pay, you own them and can do whatever you like with them. Landlords own housing and expect to profit indefinitely from something they most likely inherited the money for, if not the property itself. Furthermore, landlords don't provide housing. They own housing. Big difference. Not only this, but rather than providing housing, they play an active role in preventing people from becoming homeowners themselves. For example, in the UK, roughly half of all people born between 1981 and 2000 will be renting well into middle age, and a third as retirees. Furthermore, the number of private tenants between the ages of 35 and 54 have already nearly doubled over the last decade. The figures aren't better for the US, by the way, where 12% plan on renting forever, and a further 37% want to avoid, quote, the pains of home ownership, such as furniture, monthly fees such as property tax and homeowners insurance, and repairs that can tack on unexpected expenses. Basically meaning they wouldn't be able to afford the stuff necessary for the house, even if they could afford the house itself in the first place. That's not a preference to rent, but a sad admission as to how horrible the economic situation of most Americans is. This doesn't even touch on the reproduction of poverty and social inequality as a result of landlordism. To quote the Greater Manchester Housing Action, Picture a renter who has lived in their home for 30 years. Over this time, they will pay a rent each month at a rate their landlord calculates is necessary to cover the landlord's mortgage payments, deposit, stamp duty, etc., the cost of keeping the property in a good state of repair and fit for human habitation, the landlord's profit, meaning the amount on top of the cost of supplying the property that makes the arrangement worthwhile to the landlord. After 25 years, the renter has paid off their landlord's mortgage. Of course, their rent is not reduced to reflect this landmark. Several years later, the landlord retires and decides to sell the property to a new landlord. The new landlord takes out a mortgage to purchase their asset, and it is now the role of the renter to toil away to pay this off for them. On and on this merry-go-round will go until housing is taken out of the hands of commercial landlords. To conclude, landlords don't rent houses for charity. They do it because they can charge more than the cost of maintenance, and people who don't own land or housing will pay whatever the asking price is because it's better to get ripped off in a rental than to be homeless and live under a bridge. It's in fact the exact opposite of generosity and philanthropy. But landlords risk, so therefore they deserve profit. Do they really, though? Real estate is arguably one of the most secure investments one can make, and even if no one wants to rent, or the value of the property goes down, the landlord still has an asset that he can sell for a massive cash injection directly into his pocket. Not exactly a bad deal. Also, risk is a stupid argument. Human traffickers and drug dealers also risk quite a bit. To argue that they deserve whatever because they've risked is stupidity, and likewise for landlords or anyone else who risks. But those are illegal examples, there's no way you can compare. Except, yeah, I can. Get that critical thinking going a bit. If state-determined legality was the only thing that makes some risk acceptable or even laudable, while other risks something to condemn, what really is the material difference there? This is not equating landlordism with drug trafficking, mind you. This is just a criticism of the concept of risk. Also, how one risks property they've inherited, or a massive corporation with thousands of properties risks their investment, is beyond me. This also kind of ties into another point in that most people do some kind of labor. They actively work in order to earn their keep. This labor plays a positive role in the development of society, and if said workers disappear, there would be a noticeable change. Not so for landlords, though. All they do is own, and if they cease to exist, well, you'd scarcely notice. But they maintain / cut the grass / blah blah, yeah, we'll get to that. Arguably, though, the only risk taken is by society in keeping landlords, and of course the tenants that risk being kicked out onto the street. But rental contracts are voluntary. This argument is ridiculous because fundamentally, rental contracts are done under duress. When your options are either being homeless or pay whatever a landlord demands, including sexual favors during the latest COVID happenings, then you can't exactly honestly claim that's a fully voluntary agreement taking place, now can you? This of course doesn't touch on other factors that are completely involuntary yet perpetuate social inequality, especially along racial lines, be it in settler colonial or formerly colonial nations. In the US, double the amount of black households rent, 58%, as compared to white households, 28%. What this means is that rather than saving for their own property, African Americans disproportionately contribute nearly half their income every month to rental payments, further forcing them into a system predicated on keeping them impoverished. The solution here isn't more black landlords, but the socialization of homes so that no one is homeless, no one is forced to rent, and no one owns vast tracts of land and property, further deepening the divide in an already divided nation. But landlords have to do managerial and servicing work on their properties. Let's quote a landlord I found lamenting how much work he has to do. Speaking as a landlord, I say no. I take all the risk. I provide decent living accommodations for a tenant where he knows the rent and all the costs in advance. And if something breaks, I have to fix it at my expense. I have to cut down the grass, maintain the building, obey all the laws regarding lead paint and smoke detectors. I am not allowed to discriminate against what kind of tenant I can take. I am even forced, by law, to make reasonable accommodations for the handicapped. I cannot even go into the apartment without the permission of the tenant unless there's an emergency. So, you're not allowed to be racist. You have to make sure a handicapped tenant can actually get into the property. You have to make sure that there aren't toxic chemicals in the walls, and you can't blatantly violate the privacy of your tenants whenever you want. Oh, poor you. Here, have a tax incentive. Jesus Christ. Firstly, most landlords do not build the houses themselves. Developers hire workers to do it. Most landlords don't do the maintenance themselves. They hire people to do it for them, if they even bother, which, if you've ever rented, you'd be acutely aware of the quality of the landlord paint job phenomenon. Most landlords don't do the gardening. They hire gardeners.
No, they get their sketchy ass brother to come and fix the roof with, not with a roofing tile, but with like a square piece of plywood that was found on the side of the road as scrap. I swear to God, like every time a toilet or a sink in this building gets replaced, it's from some other unit. Landlords are the second most oppressed group after white male gamers. Landphobe, where's your landphobe name?
gardeners to do it, if at all. And the cherry on top is that they're paying these people with money that comes from your pocket, your rent, and still skimming some from the top as profit.
I still resist when I still think about your username on those YouTube videos. It's just Dylan CIA Burns. That's still like every once in a while, like I'm just like going about my day and that pops into my head and I just burst out laughing.
Hell, even if the landlord has a mortgage,
Like your whole online persona exists to annoy Dylan Burns.
On the property, it's not them paying the fees for that mortgage, it's all coming out of the rent you pay. A garbage article from Investopedia, Jesus Christ, has some garbage article titled 7 Homeowner Costs Renters Don't Pay, of which all listed things aside from the original purchase of the property are paid from the rent the tenant pays, if the home was even purchased outright in the first place rather than on mortgage that, again, you pay. I have my own bills to pay. How am I supposed to put food on the table without being a landlord?
Get a job.
To quote the same source I cited earlier, given the traditional landlord battle cry of, I've got my own bills to pay too, don't you know? Readers may be surprised to learn that nearly half of landlords own their renters' homes outright, meaning without a mortgage. For these landlords, the ongoing cost of supplying a property to a renter is limited to the costs incurred in keeping the property in a good state of repair and fit for human habitation. In comparison to average rents, these costs are negligible. According to research by the insurer More Than, the national average expenditure necessary on a 3-bedroom home for repair work, maintenance, and building insurance is only £73.17 per month. In comparison, the average rent on a 3-bedroom home in Manchester in 2018 was £895 per month, more than 10 times the average ongoing cost to the mortgage-free landlord in supplying the property. To put it another way, such a landlord's yearly costs would be covered by payment on their first month's rent, with change to spare, with every payment thereafter being pure profit. Also, get a job? Dip into that rainy day fund. Cut down on the avocado toast, perhaps. No wonder they bitch about risk so much. Apparently a single expense can ruin them. They do well to be more fiscally responsible. Laws are in favor of tenants. We landlords have no power.
Good.
This is a point so laughable that I barely need to go over it. In the UK, 1 in 5 ministers of parliament are landlords, as compared to 2% of the general public. In the US, at least 238 federal lawmakers are also landlords. More than 200 senior congressional staffers also own properties and land they rent across the US. Furthermore, there is no limit under current law on how much they can rake in as landlords, a neat little exploit to get out of the income limit they're supposed to have beside their federal salary. An interesting article on the topic is, here's how many landlords are in the Washington legislature, which I suggest you read. In 2016 in the UK, a blatant example of landlord influence saw 72 private landlord MPs contributing to defeating a Labour bill which, as a clause, would have required private landlords to make homes fit for human habitation. This was shot down. But yes, dear landlord, you're oppressed because of some loose legal protection preventing you from immediately evicting the single mother working minimum wage with 2 kids. That's the issue here. But some people prefer renting. Yeah, fuck off, no one prefers renting. The absolute smallest minority of people that have to move around a lot might prefer the convenience of renting, sure, but that doesn't justify private ownership of hundreds of properties for single individuals or the entire system of landlordism. If people need to move around a lot for work and require housing, then rotating housing plans for such industries is something the state can and should do, rather than, well, landlords. Furthermore, for the vast majority of people who live and work in one place and don't need to move around a lot, the clear preference is ownership. Also, those that attempt to paint renting versus owning as some quirky choice people make seem to forget that going from renting to owning isn't easy. In many areas across the US, and the rest of the world for that matter, landlords are buying up every house that hits the market and converting them to rentals or Airbnbs. This is especially so in third world capitals with heavy tourist presence. The people who actually live there can't actually afford to live there. In the US, a common sight is seeing cash offers with nearly $100,000 over asking price for property that just dropped onto the market. Not from that cute couple with 2.3 kids, but from some conglomerate or investment firm buying up to rent. This is not a sane way to organize housing. Through my hard work, I got this property, so I deserve this property as an investment. This is the only argument that can at least be somewhat defended. I don't have an issue with your grandparents that have a single property they rent out to help with their retirement. My issue is with corporate renting, in which dozens, hundreds, and even thousands of housing units are owned by a single individual or a company.
Which even then, single individuals are... He just pointed out that 45% of individual landlords inherited that property. Like they didn't work a lifetime to earn it, to eventually buy a second house. Like Maybe a hot take, venture capital buying up housing is kind of a good thing. Kills off the swarm of petty landlords, makes it easier to organize renters' actions and eventually socialize. Maybe. Because eventually we'll just nationalize the housing corporations. And if you start with the big ones and then cut market rent to 10% of income, you better believe the rest of the petty landlords will fall in line once enough of the market share is taken over by the state. They'll either give up and get out or fall in line. You know? It's like when you unionize your workplace, suddenly similar workplaces where you work, all those workers start getting raises. So just the fear of the union, but also the union creating more competitive wages, forces other employers to get in line.
The problem is systemic, and that's why the issue isn't for you to aspire to be a landlord as the only solution, but to abolish the concept of landlordism entirely. If you're a working couple who actually contribute to society and have one rental property on the side, hey, capitalism is brutal and you can't be faulted for trying to secure your livelihood. The issue is, though, that the system not only necessitates this behavior, but actively encourages hoarding and inhumane business practices. You yourself are not at fault, in my opinion. Those that own 300 apartments, though, those deserve the Mount treatment. Abolish landlordism, dismantle capitalism, and begin the construction of socialism. I made several videos on this that you can refer to here. And that's all for this time. If you enjoy what I do, then please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help. I'd like to thank my patrons, so thank you to Nitro Dubs, Kenny, Thomas Roberts.
All right, cool. Well, that was a fun stream. I think I've gone as long as I can. We had a really good stream tonight. We covered some really good topics. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Yeah, nobody I really want. Kid Notkin is on. I don't want to raid him. This progressive victory thing is really revealing who are genuine leftists versus who's pretending. So, yeah, I don't know if I can go. I thought about gaming tonight. I can't go much longer. I've had a long